Well, good morning to you right here on 710 KNUS. It has been a long time. Billy and I have not been on the air since Wednesday. And for me, even that was a shorter day because, as you know, it was the fantastic Imaginary Thanksgiving Day Parade, which was a huge success. I listened to the whole thing on the way to do all the other things I had to do this morning or that morning. Today's weather, as you can imagine, just going to keep getting better from over the weekend. It was freaking cold earlier. Like I want to say Friday, Saturday was awful, but we're going to be 45 today, mostly sunny, climb another 9 degrees higher to 54, hover around there till Thursday, then drop off into 38 and then kind of stay in the 40s. I think we've seen the last of our 60s, maybe even some 50s for a little bit here. But I'm excited to be back in the saddle with you. I'm not there with Billy. If you're on the Zooms or the Rumbles, what you'll be looking at is me inside a corner of, I think it's like a kitchen. I guess you could call it the kitchen or the dining room-ish area, although a lot of modern homes don't have dining rooms anymore, formal dining rooms, which, by the way, I'm completely good with. So that's what you're going to see. There's a little bit of a tree or something behind me. No, it's not a holiday tree. It's some kind of a faux olive tree, but what else can you do? I wanted to get caught up with you as we head into another long, laborious week for you guys, probably back to work. For the boys, I had Trey, a lot of time with Trey over the last week, of course, because he had fall break, but he took off yesterday. I don't know that he's coming back down until finals are over, which is just 3 weeks. Don't get me wrong, but 3 weeks. And then he's got that first semester under his belt. That's crazy. Amanda should be back in the state a month from, 3 weeks also, maybe about the 20th or something like that. She should be back in town. That's fantastic. She'll be celebrating her birthday abroad. And then you'll be right back into the holidays. Yesterday, of course, was the end of the Black Friday sales. Today marks the beginning of the Cyber Monday sales. There's just so much going on. Billy, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, hello. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the picture and things, and
Picture of
you, and then doing this. And
don't do that.
And
That's gross.
And there are certain things that I forget that you're a little bit newer to some of the radio broadcasting things because you have.
Such as?
You have strategically chosen to place yourself next to a large piece of glass. Okay.
Oh, yeah. On purpose.
Yeah. It just sound waves bounce off that glass. They're not deadening. And so unless you get certain types of glass, it won't deaden the sound. And so
do you want me to try to reposition?
No, not at all. Keep where you are. I like where you are. I like where it is. But it's just one of those things that when you're setting up, I'm like, alrighty then.
Dang it. Well,
it's just one of those places.
I have a ton of options.
No, it's good. The thing is there isn't a lot of, and the funny thing is when you first started talking, the first thing I did is I went into your microphone and I changed up some compression. I changed some of the equalizer on it, and I cranked up the volume on my end a little bit so I could listen to it because I wanted to hear the ambient sound to see how much echo we have. And right now it's good. So I'm happy. I'm happy with where we had.
Magic.
Yeah, but it was one of those things when I saw the picture and I went, that's a lot of glass. That's a lot.
It's not just behind me. Look, man, I know this even harder.
Yes,
there's a freaking sliding glass door.
That's what I saw.
There.
It was there. It was the big sliding glass door.
I butchered this whole thing. Next time I'll be in the basement.
Don't worry about it. I've got there's one place in the house where I record, and there is a sliding glass door.
I thought it was a closet. I thought you were in the closet, man.
No, there are a couple places. I do the closet because that's the most dead room in the house, but my wife seems to like to also, I don't know, use it as a closet and change your clothes in there. Strangely enough, it's weird. So
while you're on the radio,
no, that would be much more fun though. That would be great. I'd turn on some music. I'm sorry, that could go out. That would be very embarrassing. Then also downstairs in one of the boys' rooms. Because I've actually deadened that room pretty well, and I can get up in the corner, and there's some stuff on the walls that really deaden the sound. It's a really nice place to record. And then sometimes I'll set up in our little kitchen area, similar to what you have, where I've got the large glass door just off to my right, and there are curtains there, and I make sure that I pull those curtains closed and a few other things because I'm trying to deaden the sound as much as I can, but that's the weakest place.
Do you ever try to set it up so you can just stay in your casket?
I wish it'd be so much easier. The cords don't reach because that's the problem. The extension cords aren't going so far. Yeah, so that's basically it. But I miss you. There's some stuff that I wish we could do here in the but that's okay. I understand.
A lot of that's touching related, and people be freaked out by that.
It is, and like you, I had my CSU students home for the past week, and then went home yesterday, and that's hard. That is really hard.
I'm so glad you said that, because I helped load up Trey's van with stuff. You know what I mean, and it just helps him with the shopping. And
we did that too.
You know, for him, he's just excited to go back. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh, hey, this has been great, and I think I'm going to try to beat the traffic, which is smart, because you know the Broncos are in town, and he's like, I think I'm going to leave as the kickoff is happening. You know what I mean? So I can try to beat all the traffic. Smart kid. And you know, he's looking at his phone, typing in some stuff, and I'm kind of next to him by the van, trying to hug him. You know, with that sort of awkward, like, I love you, buddy. And I can feel myself getting all, you know, soft and moist. Like, you know, I'm like, I just want to tell you how happy I was to have you. And it was so great to play Catan. We did Catan one of these nights. Yeah, me and Jeff and Trey and Graham. And it's nothing's better than when the guy who has the least amount of experience or knowledge of the rules wins. And that's this clown right here. That's what
nice job.
This guy pulled off a win. And in a way that I don't even know that you could. Like, I don't even know what victory points are, but it turns out if you have a whole bunch of little towns and cities and stuff like that, that matters.
Yes, it does.
The road thing made no sense to me. I figured out early on that I had, for folks that don't know Catan, nothing I'm about to say will make any sense. I had more sheep cards than I knew what to do with.
Oh, good.
And
good.
It wasn't until about halfway through the game that I realized if I could build a road and ultimately a settlement on the port that had the 2-to-1 sheep, you know, for
you
anything,
can exchange for anything you want.
And that's when I ended up dominating the game.
Yes,
because I had like half a deck of sheep cards.
Yes.
Oh, it just took me forever. But
that's in fact that is one of the keys to Catan. They're either when you're setting up your towns and your cities, you either have to be look for a balance in resources or lean into one or two resources and corner the market on those and then work the exchange. But getting to that port is also incredibly important. Otherwise, you're screwed.
But see, I did that by accident. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew I was making some good decisions because I'd put a road somewhere and Jeff would lose his mind. Why did you do that?
Job.
Why did you do that, Dad? That doesn't help you at all. It just screws me. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but okay. You know, it must have been a good move.
Yeah, exactly. If it screws you, good move. Yes.
So I'm telling him, hey, thanks. That was so much fun. And, you know, when are you coming back? Maybe probably not till the finals are over. And I'm getting all misty. And he's like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I know.
I love you, buddy. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Thanks. You know, just the same way as on the radio.
Yes.
Like, oh, come on.
Oh, I know. I was giving Spencer a really deep hug yesterday because he was leaving, and it's one of those things where you hang on to it a little bit longer, and he sits there, and it's obviously a longer hug than I normally give him. And we get part of the way through, and he starts patting my back a little bit like a baby, and he goes, well, okay, I guess we're doing this now. And I'm like,
it's okay.
And I just said, just lean into it, let it go. And he's like, and he starts laughing.
The tapping is both comforting and also like a tapping out. Like, go ahead and release. It's okay.
Yes,
you can release now.
But it's also like the little baby thing. It's like, oh, you're such a cute little baby. You're so cute. I mean, that's what it is.
You know, you'll reflect back on this when he's feeding you tapioca in the home some years from now, and not many years from now.
No, not at all.
How did the Thanksgiving at the Thorpe home go
thanks.
down?
It went out really well. It came down. Oh, it's fantastic. My wife was in charge of doing the turkey, and she did a wonderful job. One of the things that has been the secret for us in the last few years, because for the first 15 years of our marriage, we did not have to host Thanksgiving, and we did a happy dance. We thought that was a superiority thing, and now recently we've taken it over since we got out of it so often that everybody comes to our house. And my wife has discovered those bags that you put the turkey in to cook it inside of the oven. Discovered that a couple of years ago, and that's the way to go. Not only does it make it easier, but it keeps the moisture inside the turkey.
Say that part again. Do what now?
There's an oven cooking bag, and again, I'm not responsible for this part. I'm responsible for lots of other things, and this is not my thing, other than to help her pick up the turkey that is the size of a toddler with a gland problem and slide it into the bag. I mean, it is ridiculous. This turkey was so heavy. We got it in there.
It was the reverse of giving birth.
Yes, it was.
Back in the canal.
Yeah, she's like, I have done this once already. It's your turn, mister. Get it in the hole. Yeah, so I'm putting the thing. Well. See, I know. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. and so I'm tying the top of the bag, and I'm making everything good. And so, but she has this. It's an oven bag, and it cooks the turkey inside the bag, and you just put it in the oven, and it holds in all of the moisture. And she put spices and butter and some onions in the bag as well, just to keep flavor. But it was absolutely wonderful, and it has taken a long time for me to understand exactly how to specifically carve the turkey. But now, Daddy's good. So I'm really
got
good.
The skills, very samurai.
Yeah. I was able to take off the entire turkey breast, both sides of them, without cutting it at all. So you have these gigantic pieces, and then you slice it on the plate. You slice it into those,
that's genius.
Into those
but
lines.
How did you get it off the bone without having to cut around that little sternum area?
It took a long time for me to figure it out. Basically, I have gotten to a point where, again, the knife, the part of it is it's a chef's knife, and it's very, very sharp. You got to sharpen it the day before. And if you know where that breastbone is, you just take the edge of the knife and you just run it right along the edge of the breastbone up to where the collarbone is, and you come down in kind of an arc, and then you come to then you turn the turkey around and you come at it from the backside. Start with your knife right there at the breastbone,
Really?
and you come down again along the side, because the shoulder blades are up here, and then you bring it down, and then that takes the entire large portion of it off.
I just feel like your constant use of euphemisms today is becoming a bit of an issue for me.
Oh, it absolutely will. It absolutely will.
Help me stick your meat in the oven bag, and you have to approach it from the rear. I don't know why you're doing that, other than we're in the 6 o'clock hour and you're reestablishing.
Yes, what we do here.
The low standards.
So it was good. It was I can really carve a turkey, and I can set a table. I have spent so many times working in restaurants, working in country clubs. I'll have to I'll show you a picture when you get here. I can set a table. I'm talking, I know how everything's supposed to be on the table. I stock it. I even used and this on our table, it was the charger, the plate, the bread plate, and then the folded napkin. And I did a fan fold this time around, because I can do several different folds, and you do it that way. So
this is, again, people wondering out loud, like, what inane information does this guy not possess in buckets?
Ooh, here, what is a charger? How about that? That's a little trivia question.
They're the people that couldn't beat the Ravens.
I know, that was so nice. It was so I watched that and giggled. I didn't stay up the entire time. No, the charger it started in medieval times, and if you ever sit down and you have that useless plate underneath your dinner plate, and you're like,
that's right.
What is this for?
Okay.
That's called a charger, and it was used in medieval times. Nothing, but that's just what the name of it. It was used
as a shield.
It was used in medieval times to carry the food from wherever it was prepared, a kitchen, or if it was just in a buffet style, to the table, because you didn't want to put your filthy, dirty fingers on your plate, especially if it's somebody else's filthy, dirty fingers, like the servants. So the charger was used to carry it, and at the very end, you could have a small bit of soup or liquid at the tail end of the meal to polish it off, and that's why it's so shallow. But again, that's the reason.
I just can't imagine that hygiene was that big a deal back in medieval times.
It really wasn't, but they had the little plate, because they were like, that person has leprosy and had come touching the meat. So that's the kind of idea. Yeah, exactly.
Is that a
kind of thing? So they had to invent something that the touch instead of the food.
Clean that shit up!
So I can do that, though. I did the chargers, and then the next morning I went to sleep a little bit early before everybody left the house, because I had been up early that morning. But it's funny, because my wife always jokes. She comes downstairs and she's like, clean up everything. Oh yeah, I had changed up. We were already running a second dishwasher load at that point. I'd been putting china away. I had disassembled 2 different tables that we had brought up from the basement. Parents were all ready to go downstairs.
Amazing.
I had done all that. Oh, and the other thing we did this weekend, I have to talk about. We watched the David Beckham. Thing on Netflix.
I'm debating whether to do that on Netflix.
Oh, that's good. But again, it's a Netflix thing, because Netflix, and it's funny because my wife's the one that watched it first, and so she's like, "Oh, this is great," and my son and I know Beckham and the team very well, and so she came down and watched it with us later, and she's sitting there going, "Oh, you guys know what happens?" Like, yeah. She's like, "Oh, it was so dramatic because I have no idea. All the soccer games and things they're talking about." We're like, no, we know the narrative. We know everything is going to happen. She's like, you guys aren't like worried as much as I. I'm like, no, we know. We know the games he's going to win. We know the games. It's really cool, and it's a wonderful Netflix thing, because I talk about Netflix has this ability to come to you and say, "Hi, Mr. George Brauchler, would you like to watch a 4-hour movie about David Beckham?" And you're like, "Ha ha, shut up, Netflix. That is stupid." They go, "Well, how about 4 1-hour episodes?" Like, oh, Netflix.
That sounds
wow, Netflix, that is wonderful. So instead of a 4-hour movie, it's 4 1-hour episodes, and it is really good because Beckham, they have a lot of footage from when he was a kid because of his dad taking video. But more importantly, he hits Manchester United at 17, and Victoria is part of the Spice Girls. So they have a lot of behind-the-scenes video footage that is just that tells the narrative. So you have a lot of them talking, but they have video from real time back in that era of them meeting and talking and dating and the family, and it is unbelievable. It is really cool to see the story.
I heard that the big reveal is that Beckham actually transitions into Posh Spice.
Yes,
they're not the same person.
And then Posh is now Beckham because it's hard to tell the difference.
Interesting because you never see them in the same place. At the same
you don't.
Time.
No, but I'll tell you what, I did not know Victoria Beckham very well. I knew Spice Girls, and I'd seen and in all honesty, she was one of my probably the least favorite Spice Girl. I always thought that she was cold. I didn't like her, and then I found out that watching this. I fell in love with her based on her personality. No, she's wonderful. She's got a fantastic personality, but you see some of these videos, the reason that she was so reserved is because every other one of the Spice Girls is a personality on a scale of 1 to 10, they're like on 15. So all the rest of them have these giant personalities. Now she's got a big personality, but on comparison, not even close. So I understand why that was my impression of her. And after watching this, there's one where and I won't give away the thing, but there's something happening, and Beckham does something that is really bad. I mean, you as a father and a husband would understand. Oh God!
In the kitchen sink.
Yeah, no, even worse. You're like, oh God, what? How come he did this? You're like, no, bad, no, David, no, and you can see it coming. You can see the decision making, and after it happens, they come back and they say, yeah, there was news stories about Posh Spice being upset and what would Posh think about this, and it was like headlines on the tabloids, and they come back to her and she goes, yeah, the tabloids are saying, what was Posh Spice thinking? You know what Posh Spice was thinking? Posh Spice was pissed. She gets back at the camera, and it's great, and she's doing it because it's years ago. She's gotten over it, but it was really funny in that moment. She goes, yes, I was pissed. And it's really funny. And there's a part about she's pregnant with one of their kids, and David's doing a shoot with Jennifer Lopez, and she goes, and there he is going to do a shoot with Jennifer Lopez, who's very pretty and not very pregnant like me. So she's mad about that. It's just really funny.
While you're telling this awesome story, we've got a couple texts. Here's some concerns. YouTube audio has a problem with another soundtrack playing on the background with music and profanity. Here's another one.
Excellent.
On the YouTube, there was really loud music and a lot of cussing that came across on the audio. I feel like that's probably just Lewis with an open mic.
Yeah,
he's probably just doing his.
We'll have to look at that. Maybe we'll just reconnect. Maybe during this break we'll disconnect and reconnect. Maybe have Lewis send us a new.
Someone has suggested watching Dexter for how to carve a turkey.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to watch that Beckham one. Graham and I, because none of the other boys care. Yeah. Graham and I just finished Swamp Kings, which I thought was
nice. Yeah,
really well done, and it could have been just a Tebow love fest, but it was bigger than that. It was good, and there were some good lessons there. And now we're on Bye Bye Barry. About Barry Sanders.
Oh, I want to see that one. That's on my next list.
And I'm telling you, man, this guy just has a different level of character.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk, I had not remembered this. They talk about his rookie year. Not only is he all pro and, this incredible phenom for the Lions, but in the last game of the season, he is like 9 yards away from the rushing title, his rookie year.
Yeah.
But they're blowing out the other team. He's already rushed for 154 yards. He comes out after his last touchdown, and the coach is like, all right, man. He goes, we have this one at hand. Put you back in for a few more yards to get the record.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
And he just goes and sits it out. And they play all the clips of all the commentators. They're like, is he hurt? What's going on?
Why would he take this record?
This is crazy. And then they go back in time to when he was in high school ball.
Yeah.
Same thing. He is yards away from the all-city record. He comes off the sidelines, another score, and the coach says to him, hey, man, I can put you back in there, Barry, and you can get that all-city record. We got this game at hand, or you can let the young guys run. You choose. And he's like, let the young guys run. And he just goes and sits down. I'm like, who does that? I mean, he's such – Graham was watching this with me, and he goes, he's kind of like the anti-Deion Sanders in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right, man. He's not an attention seeker. When he scored touchdowns, he never throws the ball into the end zone. He just goes and hands it to the ref.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
time.
this guy is such a class act, such an understated superstar. I love that we're watching this. We're probably, I don't know, a third of the way through it,
good.
but it's a great one. It's a great one to watch with kids.
And I think, and the relationship between he and his father plays a lot into it, I think, as far as how Barry's wired, and in part, I mean, it's a good and a bad thing, but in part why Barry, I mean, I hate to say it's probably not the right way to put it, but never thought he was good enough, because his dad never thought he was good enough on some level, never thought that he was a superstar. I mean, Dad told him, you're never going to be better than Jim Brown. Nobody is. And so there's a thing there where I think that's part of how he's wired, where you don't, and I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm reading into it, where you don't chase some of those records. Rather than trying to prove Dad wrong, he's wired to say, okay, I don't have to try to be the best.
Yeah,
I will do my best.
So have you watched that one?
I only pieces of it. I haven't gone all the way through yet.
I want to see that part, because his dad is also the one that when they ask him, he says he did something with the football after a score when he was young.
Yeah.
And his dad said, I don't want you doing that.
Yeah.
His dad was the one that was like, I want you to act like you've been there before.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Don't do that.
Yeah. The other one,
he just never did.
Yeah. The other one that's interesting, I guess, in the conversation, I haven't gotten there yet, but I've seen some notes on it when he talks about why he left, because that's always been the big question. Why did he retire?
I haven't heard it yet.
Okay. Then I will let you wait, because we'll have to have that conversation, because as soon as he said it, you went, oh, damn. Because I've seen pieces of it, and that's why I've got to go back, and I'm only about 15-20% into it right now.
Texter with Billy Cast sums of knowledge. It's shocking he did not invent the iPhone or start Google or become the real life version of Tony Stark.
No, not at all. The thing that's the problem is
the
stuff that I know is useless. I mean, the thing would be, instead of like Tony Stark and doing all the inventions and getting rich, my thing would be, here's the weird guy on the corner that can teach you how to kick this ball really far, or this. Skills, the things that I know are mostly useless. That's the problem. That is the issue. Is all the things in my stupid gray matter.
Somehow this is going to turn into something like Billypedia or something like that. One final note about Thanksgiving, which was fantastic. Had the whole family over here and all that stuff. It was great.
Did you
the leftover issue?
Yeah, let's talk.
So after the conversation about the Jell-O, my sister shows up with the cheese ball, which was gone. Maybe there's 25% of it left. It went pretty quickly.
Nice.
The green Jell-O, it showed up again. So why did you do that? She's like, great. I just couldn't help myself. And I know how much you like it. So once again, I am now walking around like the hors d'oeuvre guy at the party. And I'm walking up to the nieces and the nephews. And I'm like, hey, one of the nephews brought his girlfriend. I'm like, hey, this stuff is awesome. How much can I give you? And they're like, oh, there's no room on my plate, but round two, of course.
Round two.
I'll be happy to get some. Of course, my dad had some, and it ended up becoming, this is not just about the green Jell-O. Whatever leftovers we had, we overwhelmed the fridge. I did something wrong with the organization. So it was like, well, what are we going to do with this? Because I don't have a garage fridge functioning right now. So it was like, what are we going to do with this? I thought we gave a bunch away to family, take this, take that. The rest of it, honestly, because of the temperature, I just put it out on the back deck.
Yeah, that's true. You can do that.
And so the cheese ball and the green Jell-O thing solidified in a way that I hadn't really anticipated. So waiting to see if thawed out green Jell-O, mom's green Jell-O, and the cheese ball have any taste life left to them. I don't know what happens.
The cheese ball probably will, depending on it. The Jell-O, no. The Jell-O,
really?
The problem with the Jell-O is going to be the water content inside. That once that water content turns solid, then goes back. Not the same.
Oh,
it's probably going to be a little runny.
Look, I had my healthy share of it, but there was Lisa made so much. I'm like, I could live off of this for the rest of the week. Like I don't know where you are with leftovers for Thanksgiving, but I've already pounded through almost all of them in the form of those Dagwood-like post-Thanksgiving sandwiches where I'm like, I would put on turkey and I would put on cranberry and I would put on sweet potato and I would put on mashed potato.
Talk about the sandwich. Okay. Your post-Thanksgiving sandwich.
Yep.
How do you assemble it? What is the process? What goes on it?
Instantly,
and why?
To give my heart that wake-up call, I do mayonnaise on both pieces of bread. Then I do the lightly heating of this thing. I don't want it to be completely cold because it makes the turkey more malleable. Put the turkey on. On top of the turkey, I put the cranberry. I put some sweet potato. I put some mashed potato with some stuffing. I mean, this thing is out of control. And then I found some I think it was for Thanksgiving, brie cheese. And so I got the brie cheese and put that on the top level, smashed it all down, cut it in half. And the minute you go to take a bite, of course, the sweet potato and the mashed potato run right out the sides. But it was a wonderful experience. It was so wonderful. I did it both Saturday and Sunday.
Nice. That's good. That is
How about
really
you guys?
good. We have a couple of different things. One tradition in our house next morning is on Thanksgiving and Christmas morning. Because we'll do some things Christmas Eve. And then a day after Christmas. Only days of the year which are acceptable in the house to have pie for breakfast. So pie is obviously for breakfast. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Next day, absolutely. Yeah. On those big celebrations. So the kids always love that one. But we also do some croissant rolls. So the next morning, along with your pie breakfast, I normally heat up the turkey and open up the croissant and put just a little bit of the cranberries in there that have also been warmed. And you warm the croissant as well. So it's a little bit of the sweetness, a little bit of the turkey, but not overwhelming. The sandwich, however, the bread has to be lightly toasted. Very key, absolute key, is the bread has to be lightly toasted. Mayonnaise on one piece, mustard on the other.
Oh, mustard. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Throw on the turkey, and then it's basically a hodgepodge of whatever it is you like. If you are someone that likes a lot of the mashed potatoes, then you'd use mashed potatoes, but then you can add a little bit of the cranberries. Ideally, what I do is the turkey, a little bit of warmed mashed potatoes over the top, not a lot. I don't really want it squeezing out over the edge. I want it just as a little bit of a condiment, and then a little bit of the cranberries on top there because it adds some sweetness, and then that's it for the sandwich for me. The other people in my house, some of them will add stuffing, and those people that have got, I don't know, I want to say it's either a character flaw or a head injury. They like the sweet potatoes, and so they put that on the bread and the stuff too. So, but again, I can't correct
sweet
that.
Potatoes is cancer.
Oh, they're awful. They're horrible.
Cancer on my
sandwich.
sandwich.
In fact, I was throwing away some of the leftovers yesterday because we did some grocery shopping, and after a while, you can kind of figure out in the containers how much more the leftovers are going to be eaten and which ones have won. Yeah. Like American Idol, you can see what the family's voting for.
Right.
Yeah, and so about we got 2/3 of the way through the sweet potatoes, and then everybody stopped eating them. And there's nothing that makes me happier than turning that container over and hearing it go into the trash. That's awful. I'm like, let's get out of here.
Billy, here's some text. Made turkey tetrazzini and a turkey quiche for the week last night and froze what turkey was left. I do have a ton of turkey left. That's smart. I'm over turkey, and no one brought green Jell-O. Frowny face. Breakfast pie is the best. True. You've driven many of the texts. Here's ones. Billy's humble brag about Thanksgiving Day cleanup. Nice.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
And there's a reason for that one too. And I got to go back to the Beckham thing. That there's a thing in the David Beckham in the show where he talks about how he putters around and he stays up late at night because he cleans everything because he wants to make sure that when he comes down the stairs in the morning that everything looks nice, and that's how he's wired. Nice. And my wife at that point turns and she goes, God, there's so many things about him that are like you. And I'm like, what do you mean? I go, I don't do that. And she turns to me and she goes, she turns to me, and we were watching the 4th episode the day after Christmas and after the Thanksgiving morning, and she turns to me and she says, really? Who was up this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and who took down the tables and cleaned this and put the china away? Who did that? And I went, crap, you're right. So yeah, the idea, it's just different time. I do that stuff in the morning.
Still brilliant.
Yeah, I do that stuff in the morning rather than the evening. And even I was up early yesterday, and I was cleaning up around the house too after doing part of the radio show. So it's just one of those things that I'm wired to do. And working so long in restaurants, there was a point in my 20s and early 30s where friends would invite me to parties simply because they know that there would be a point in the party where it was late in the evening. I would start cleaning up. I wouldn't let the cups sit all over the house. I would start cleaning things up, and I can't help myself. It is bizarre. Brilliant. I cannot help myself, though, but that's something that I'm hardwired to do. So
you'd be a good date. Here's another text. Useless knowledge, ? Are you kidding? Everyone needs to know how to use a charger plate.
That is true. I do agree with you. I do agree on that one. You need to know how to use it.
And then Alexa says, surprised you did not have a coyote or fox come into your backyard for dinner. I wrote, even they don't like the green Jell-O. Apparently, they just
they came in. Oh God, no!
I can't even turn it over to nature for consumption. Even they're like, no, why the walnuts? That doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing this?
Is that a hot dog? It's just not.
We didn't even get a chance to talk Broncos here because
that was great.
It was great. It was, I don't know how to describe it. It never feels super comfortable watching them play because I think we're so scarred and traumatized, like in a PTSD way, about the first part of the season.
Oh, absolutely.
But dang, man, I don't know. And some of the calls that are coming, what's his name? Locke. There were a couple of those calls for, personal foul, unnecessary roughness. And I'm like, it's still football. Let's go, man. I mean, these weren't even cheap shots. They were hard shots.
Yeah.
Like when he took out their quarterback, the backup.
Yeah.
I didn't see that as unnecessary. I didn't see that as cheap. I mean, I just saw that as he tackled him. He hit his shoulder and the dude got a little cut lip. And I'm like, I'm looking at a multimillionaire with a cut lip and they're like, look at that. There's blood on his. I'm like, it's football, for the love of God, man. This happens in soccer.
It's like he didn't lose a finger. I mean, come on.
Right. This wasn't a Theismann
Yeah,
injury.
exactly. Come on. Yeah, that I was surprised too, because if you watch the Amari Cooper hit where he was knocked out, you compare the two. The Amari Cooper hit is much more.
No flag.
Yes, no flag at all. The Amari Cooper hit is absolutely. He is leading with the front of his helmet and launching himself into the side. And I'm sitting there going, would you have preferred? Now let's just say,
I bet you broke his ribs. I mean, it was just so brutal.
I mean, I keep looking at it going, okay, NFL, would you prefer that tackling technique on the backup quarterback? Would you have preferred the Bronco to instead alter their body trajectory by about 25%, leave the field, and drill their helmet into the rib cage of said quarterback? Is that what you're looking for? Because he came in with his shoulder and did make contact with the helmet, but that was ruled a penalty. The Amari Cooper one isn't. If that's not a penalty, then that's what you should expect how quarterbacks should be hit all the time. However, this comes back to my rule, though. Quarterbacks need to have a goalie jersey like they do in soccer. Give them a different colored jersey because they are special little boys and they are not allowed to play the same game. We can only touch them with two hands, and we have to say sorry afterwards.
In practice leading up to the in they'll give them a different penny, sometimes a different helmet so that people are like, oh my gosh, they treat them like little China dolls.
Yes.
It's, in my opinion, it's kind of ruining the game.
It is absolutely.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm sure the quarterbacks of the past are like, are you kidding me? I could have played for 40 years.
The part that
had let me have that.
What I love is I love the quarterbacks that go off there and they start running. And we got a lot of running quarterbacks right now. And they run and they get down and they get up and they dance. And like, I'm the best runner ever, quarterback. Look at me. I'm like, you have no idea. None of the defenders are allowed to touch you. Do you understand that when Elway, Marino, and Montana, when they would take off and run, as soon as you got 3 steps, that was a free shot. It didn't matter. It was a center. It was, I'm sorry, nose tackle. It was a tackle. It was a quarterback. It was a safety that would come in like, I'm going to light this guy up.
Yeah, and you're a runner.
Yes, and
you're a runner.
If you didn't try to have the quarterback separated from his cleats, then you were not hitting him right. That's what it used to be. But all these running quarterbacks are going to go, I'm so good. They can't tackle you. They're not allowed to touch you.
Sliding two is like being on base in tech. Like,
exactly.
I'm down. All you can do is lightly touch me.
Oh, they do. They just need to. And think about it this way. And again, you're missing the marketing. Think about if you had 2 different kinds of jerseys. You had a quarterback jersey, and then you had a regular player jersey. Think of all the extra money the NFL could make. Yes, because I'm all about the marketing. So,
but the other jersey would look like the fragile jersey. Like, I've got to wear the fragile jersey.
But you can also do a lot of things with it. If you take a look at what they do with soccer, you got a lot of colors. You can do different designs. They could do some really cool stuff. Like yesterday, if Russell, if we're wearing the blue jerseys, Russ could have a really cool orange jersey on. And so it would just differentiate himself from the rest of the players. There could be some cool stuff.
It highlights the weakness of the NFL in this whole let's protect everybody nonsense. It's either going to be gladiators or it's just a bunch of big muscly guys that can lightly tap people. Last couple quick sports comments. Of course, the Buffs, disappointing end to the season. Hopefully Dion comes back and rights that ship. My son goes, when is Prime Season 2 coming out? I'm like, couple years.
A couple years. Do you see the coaching change though? Ooh.
No, I didn't see it.
You lost one coach, but the rumor is, guess who's coming to coach?
Please don't say Jack Del Rio. Please don't say Jack Del Rio.
Warren Sapp.
What?
Yeah.
Warren Sapp's coming to coach. This clearly is defense.
Yes. But
who did we lose on defense?
I think one of the offensive guys left. But even then, don't care The idea that you bring Warren Sapp in to be a coach.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Even with the bad record, that is a recruiting gold mine.
Yeah, I just wonder what they do quarterback-wise when Shedeur goes pro. Nonetheless, Nuggets, of course, rebounded nicely from a couple game skid where they beat the Wembanyama-led Spurs pretty handily. There's a clip out there of Michael Porter getting out and under him as he's about to block a shot, and that's just wonderful. Anyway, listen, we've gone long. I want to get to the Thorpe Report, bringing us back from the Thanksgiving break and then into the You Choose the News. Let's do this. Let's cut away for a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do the good stuff. Stick around. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Woo! Just like we did before Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving, still hosing us on the time. It's time for the Thorpe Report with BTs.
Hey, thank you, sir. Today it's going to look similar to yesterday in our weather forecast. Fair, somewhat warmer weather is going to continue throughout today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. High-pressure ridge is going to roll through. And then we'll see how it comes later in the week. Increasing clouds, but we have no idea. Just expect today highs around 44 and then warmer Tuesday and Wednesday into the mid-50s. Officers are looking for a driver who left the scene of a fatal crash yesterday morning in Aurora. Police say the crash happened around 7 o'clock in the morning. East Iliff Avenue and South Havana Street is the location. 2000 Honda Accord and a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. They believe the driver of the Hyundai ran a red light before the crash. The driver of the Honda, a 28-year-old man, was killed in the crash. The Hyundai left the scene. Person has not been identified or located. They're still looking out for him. Adams County Sheriff's Office said a man stopped breathing when deputies tried to arrest him on Saturday afternoon. They say in a news release they responded to a report of an arson in progress right around 2:30 in the afternoon, 6800 block of Highway 79 in Bennett. Sheriff's Office said the man was trying to light items on fire inside of the home and became combative at the scene. Yeah, he fought with deputies and then stopped breathing as deputies were trying to take him into custody. Deputies immediately provided aid to the man on the scene before he was taken to the hospital for medical treatment. Current condition not available, and investigation is ongoing. A child was unfortunately killed in a crash involving a train and a car in Weld County on Saturday morning. It was around 10 o'clock in the morning. 26-year-old woman driving the car went through a stop sign, resulted in the train hitting the rear end of the car. Family member told reporters that the road wasn't plowed. Driver was unable to stop because of ice and snow, not that they were running the stop sign. They slid into the crossing, unable to move the car, and a 4-year-old child was taken to the hospital where they died. 2-year-old child transported with serious injuries. The driver and a 26-year-old alt man in the passenger seat suffered minor injuries. Crash is under investigation. The last of the 3 trials related to the death of Elijah McClain is expected to begin this week. A jury selection slated for today, but let's see what happens. The EMTs in Elijah McClain.
It starts today?
Yeah, in theory, yeah. Yes, let's see what happens. Urban Farm in Denver Central Park neighborhood is asking for your help after someone broke into their tack room and stole more than $22,000 worth of equipment for their horses. They offer field trips and equestrian classes for at-risk youth. So this is kind of a charity, guys, and people stole from them. Without their equine tack, these programs aren't possible. Monday night, the farm said someone cut their barbed wire fence on the perimeter of the property, broke into the tack room, and stole the pricey equipment fitted for each of the horses. Each saddle at the Urban Farm is fitted with a gold plate and a name. So hopefully this unique identifier will help you know if you're trying to buy something on the black market or if you find it's stolen. Also, the Denver Broncos beat the Cleveland Browns on a chilly Sunday afternoon at Empower Field. 5th in a row win for our Broncos. Record now 6-5. So that's all I got. Not too bad. Yep.
Buddy, that's good stuff. I want to cut away for a break so we can come back and do what we can with the You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. got to get it done under the wire. FCC rules and just pure decency demand it. It's time for You Choose the News.
Did you say decency? I don't think you know how this game is played.
It was 6 o'clock hour. The bar is really low.
It is really low. Yes, sir. It is that time where we play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs all Thanksgiving weekend, at least as far as you know, to find stupid stories about us humans and giving them ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game. Why? They don't know we're doing it. So shh. Alrighty, sir. Here are your headlines today. Headline number 1, fan gives up their amateur status. Headline number 2, why come to a reasonable conclusion when you can just scare people? Headline number 3, you're not following the rules, law enforcement edition. And headline number 4, Rodentia revenge or kibble chaos. You choose. Alrighty. Once
I think
again,
the word Rodentia was in there. I'm going to go with that one.
Rodentia revenge or kibble chaos. This comes to us from Greenfield, Massachusetts. Well, on Thanksgiving morning, a family in Greenfield had to call the fire department because some dastardly mice tried to burn down their house. Yes, I said mice. Now, what happens is this. Here's the story. The family has not used their oven in a few weeks so far. And when they go to heat up the oven, do the preheating for the turkey on the big Thanksgiving day, their oven catches fire. Once the people with the big flashing lights, the big red trucks and the hoses arrive and put out the fire, they realize that inside of the oven is a bunch of dog kibble. They have mice in the house, and the mice had been stealing the dog's food and storing it inside of the oven. So when they turned it on to preheat it, the dog food caught fire. And
Holy
so almost burnt.
smokes,
yeah, so
man.
Mice almost burnt down the house on Thanksgiving. Yeah, I know.
Oh my
goodness. Wait until
this
Tom
is
and Jerry
like
figure
the
this out.
Nutcracker Part 2.
Exactly. Yes. Alrighty. Next choice. Fan gives up amateur status. Why
Yeah,
come
that
to
one. Fan gives up amateur status. How?
We are traveling to South Korea and meeting Young Yu Ying, a 23-year-old who is obsessed with crime shows, novels, and those true crime type podcasts. So fixated, she decided, man, I got to give up my amateur status. Let's find out how this works. She's now being sentenced to prison for killing somebody. Yes, she told police she murdered a stranger out of curiosity. Oddly enough, when they were when they're going to trial, they did a personality test. Strangely enough, she scored really high on the psychopathic part of the test.
No,
I know. I'm as shocked as you are. Notice my shocked face. Yes,
this is this generation.
I know, absolutely. And your final choice: why come to a reasonable conclusion when you can just scare people, or you're not following the rules? Law enforcement edition.
Law enforcement, please.
You are not following the rules. Law enforcement edition. We're traveling to Lebanon, Indiana, and David Juarez. See, David is in love, and so he decided to show his love to his significant other by getting an engagement ring. You know, a kiss begins with K, but at K, it also begins with stealing. Yes, David actually stole the engagement ring from K Jewelers and then led police on a high-speed chase. When eventually they stopped his car and they come over to arrest him, he said, hey, you're not doing this right. I know the law. And here in Indiana, there is a no pursuit law. You are not allowed to chase me. Sirs, go away. Give me my ring and let me go on my way. Yes, he actually, during the arrest, complained to the officers that what happened to this whole no chase thing? I thought you guys were not supposed to chase me. You don't know how this is. He also said, I'm now touching base, so I'm safe. I think that's how it works.
Did he slide at the 20?
No, but it's like tag when you're a kid. No, I'm on base. Or wait, I have crossies. You can't touch me. So evidently he thought that's what it was. Evidently he didn't look into actually what that no chase rule is and why. But I love the fact that he's like, you can't do this. You're not supposed to chase
just
me.
As a heads up to those criminals out there listening to 710, contemplating a crime, Douglas County will chase. Just so you know, the last I got called to a case where they did, and it ended with AR-15 rounds being put into a car who ran from the car.
I like that one.
Driver
Daddy
dead,
likey.
Passenger bullet in the face.
You got 15 seconds
forever. Hey, listen, stick around. We're going to be joined by Patty Calhoun. It's been way too long from West. We're going to have a great conversation about Denver. And then we'll turn it over to you. Some crazy stuff going on in the state of Colorado. We'll talk about it. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Brauchler back with you here, hour 2 or 4 on 710 KUS. Charlie Kirk at 10, Dennis Prager at 11, Seb Gorka at 1, and then we go live and local. Billy, do you know who it is 3 to 4? I'm going to presume Jimmy. If not Jimmy, it'll probably be Jeff Hunt, and then we go with Officer Brandon Tatum. He was a police officer for many months out there in Arizona and now has a pretty successful radio show and podcast out there. Give a listen from 4 to 7. It has been way too long since we have brought on our next VIP guest. You heard her on here a billion times, but even before me with the great Pete Boyles, I even think he gave her a shout out during the imaginary Thanksgiving Day parade just last week. It's Westword's Patty Calhoun. Patty, thanks for joining us again.
My pleasure.
It's just been too long. I don't understand how we did that, but somehow it's just, I don't know. It seems like months have gone by and we haven't chatted.
Yes, and you know what? The same topics are still coming up. What's going on with the Colorado Republican Party, Denver Public School Board. You know, we can keep returning to the same topics, but it just gets crazier and crazier.
Evergreen stuff as we head into this 2024 election. But before we get there, can I just ask, anything special on Thanksgiving? You get to spend it with a big group, small group? What'd you do?
I actually headed down to Santa Fe, where I was with friends, and then rented a car and just drove to Tucson, where I am with a passel of Calhouns at the moment.
Oh, you have taken time out of a great family vacation to be on the air with us. You're terrific, Patty. Thank you.
I would say I'm with brothers-in-law who are all doing Zooms at the moment with their own work. So it's like a little family business right now.
I love the idea of everybody scrambling to find that quiet corner in the house or whatever. Like, I've got to go over here. I've got to go to the hotel. I've got to whatever. That's fantastic.
Exactly. I almost got assigned to the bathroom, but the good news is I still get the couch.
Oh, that's nice. That's very nice. I wish we could get you on video. So we could, because that's our new thing, Patty. One of these times we're going to have to get you on video because that's what we're trying to do more of. I don't know why. There's something called the YouTubes out there. It gets a lot of attention. Can I ask?
It's on FaceTime, but I changed it back.
Well, now we just have this awesome still picture of you. Very professional, editor at Westword Magazine. Billy, you're going to have to shoot her a copy of this. Patty, if you were going to give a grade to Mayor Mike Johnston at this point, what would you give him and why?
Well, that's easy. A big incomplete, because he's given himself the deadline of the end of December to house 1,000 people. And last count, he has over 700 people to go. So that is a lot of work just to get them into housing. And then it's tending incomplete, but we have our suspicions it is not going to be an A because there's so many unknown things. Are the people who are being housed, how long are they housed? What kind of services are they getting while they're housed? Will they stay housed and move on, or what percentage will go back on the streets? So those are the big questions looming at the end of December. But in the meantime, you have a lot of people complaining about lack of communication from the mayor's office, about the various micro communities that are going into neighborhoods around Denver, city council people complaining they don't know enough yet. So as I said, I'm giving it a big incomplete and hoping it is not a bad grade at the end of December.
Now, there's a 1980 movie that's some years ago with Kurt Russell called Used Cars. And they get caught in a pickle where they're accidentally caught with an advertisement that gets cut against them by a competitor that says they have a mile of cars. And so the rest of the movie is a scramble to put together a mile of cars. And at the end, they win because somebody slaps the trunk of a car and a license plate flips down and gets them that as they're measuring them. It feels like that could be the setup for what's going on in Denver with the homeless thing. As we approach December 31st, I could see Mike Johnston just inviting 100 people to spend the night at his house. You know what I mean? And be like, come on in, and there I've unhoused them at least for the evening. I don't know how they're going to accomplish 700. Patty, say that again?
Go ahead.
No,
the revamped web building, so maybe they can put them in the web building in the basement because they're going to be redoing that building.
That's a great point. When you hear from people in the community who are in these neighborhoods that are contemplated for the micro communities or whatever this transitional housing ends up becoming, We already know that one of them backed the mayor down because and I cannot remember the location of it, but the mayor backed down on where he was going to put it. What are you hearing? And is there, I mean, this is the NIMBY thing on steroids, but are you hearing communities saying, okay, we get it. It's got to be somewhere. We understand it has to be us. Or is it pretty universal? Pretty please don't do that here.
I think it's very mixed. There are some complete NIMBYs, we don't want it. There are others who say it hasn't been clear how many people are coming, what kind of services there will be. So it's very mixed. I mean, the Golden Triangle is the one where it got back down because there's already a second one going up in the Golden Triangle. And originally the promise was one in every council district. That's not going to happen. But Johnston has kept his promise to go out and go into all the neighborhoods and talk to people. So he's done that. The question is, how much is he and his administration listening? Then you've got the added problem with the migrant housing, which is a completely separate issue.
You're right.
From
You're right.
House 1000. And I live right close to 26th and Zunai, where there are, or at least there were when I left town, tents just lining the street. And those are migrants who had housing for a while, went past the limit, and are now trying to figure out what to do. Some are going to other cities, but they're in limbo. They can't work. A lot of them want to work, and they can't work because what is the visa you need for work? It's $500. It's over $500, and they don't have it.
We're talking with Patty Calhoun from Westword. I'm not asking you to vote that you want it to go one way or the other, but you've been in Denver long enough that you've seen the housing crisis and the road home and all these other things tried and they failed. And how optimistic are you? Not do you want to be, how optimistic are you that Mayor Johnston's plan is going to work here?
I'd say I'm more optimistic than I've been in the last decade when a lot of this was largely ignored, especially as the problem across the country grew during COVID. We haven't seen a lot of cities that have had major success. Some have had some success, though. I do hope Johnston continues to look at all the other cities, sees what kind of progress has been made, but look at the amount of money we have thrown at this over the past decade. And now we're getting ready to throw a lot more, but there is no question we need to get the streets more clear so people in Denver feel they can go downtown. I will say that, or other parts of the city. I mean, you've seen homeless people living in a lot of different spots. I will say this, everyone I know who's lived next to one of the micro communities, you know, we've had some of them since December 2020. Everyone who's lived near one of them said it was fine. It was actually better than if you happened to have an encampment on the street.
That's worth knowing. I know
one of my writers lived right across the street, and said, you know, they are managed. It's very different from if you're living in an unofficial encampment at 17th and Logan.
Well, that's the security thing that Mayor Johnston promised, and it makes a big difference because DPD had been called out thousands of times to these encampments, and Mike had said, look, that's not going to be an issue for these micro communities. We're going to make sure that they're monitored and they're safe and all this other stuff, and it sounds like, based on your writer's experience, that's true.
Right, it's true, but that was before a Mike Johnston micro community, but Cole Chandler was running them, and he's the czar.
Interesting.
So I am hopeful, and we will, of course, hold their feet to the fire, because the other thing is we just wrote this last week, and I understand people weren't happy in the administration that we wrote it, that they're trying to get them, they don't have enough workers. So they're going to other departments in the city and reassigning people to be outreach workers on the streets over the next month. And these are not people, they're going to get some quick training. It starts today, but they've been reassigned from their city jobs in other departments to work on the project. So it is a 5-week push.
It'd be fine with me if they reallocated the parking operations people to that. That might alleviate some of the problems with going to Denver for restaurants and shopping and stuff like that, because those people are ninjas. Patty, I don't know how much you drive around the city, but they just appear out of smoke. The minute your meter goes off, they're on your windshield. I don't know how they do it, but it's magical, and I think it funds the city.
It's pretty amazing. I'm downtown every day, except not right now, so I can tell you my parking ticket history will tell you. And one of my favorite things is they seem to stake out the Denver Press Club, which is conveniently located next to Shotgun Willie's, but not Shotgun Willie's. Diamond Cabaret.
I thought it was co-located. No, not co-located. That's different. I didn't hear that right.
Close enough. But that is like the black hole for tickets.
Another topic that we could cover, and that is how everything is now all super cool and copacetic with DPS.
Well, we'll see. The 3 new people are being sworn in tomorrow, the 3 new board members. Anderson will be gone. We will see if this really changes the makeup. It can't get any more dysfunctional than it was.
What's your interpretation then of the election outcome for the 3 that won?
I think more than, well, first of all, how much have we talked about actually educating students? We haven't really
Ever.
For the last 8 months. Well, at least the last 8 months. It's been safety, or it's just been bad behavior at the DPS board level, where they aren't letting people speak, where they're having secret meetings, where they're throwing out principals at McCullough, for example. So let's actually hear if there is talk about educating students. And I think John Youngquist, who was elected to the at-large seat, former East High principal, is a consultant who had actually done a report on school safety. Everyone I know who knows him and had kids at East High when he was the principal speaks very highly of him. So to get someone in there who knows what he's doing and knows that flagship school, I think will make a big difference. But we'll see. Will they all act like adults? I hope so.
Best guess, does Tay end up becoming a member of the legislature in 2025?
There are others looking at that seat, and I am guessing no, but it is going to be a hard-fought election next year.
Another legislator topic, and I don't think you and I have talked since this whole thing happened, but Tim Hernandez, some of the stuff that took place after he was sworn in, like moments after he was sworn in, it seemed like, but before he was able to do the special session. And then the follow-on, the controversy with Elizabeth Epps during the special session, we've talked a lot about it on the radio here. What's your takeaway from all of that? What are your thoughts? Is there long-lasting consequences for that, or is this just another flash in the pan thing because the Democrats control everything, and if they don't talk about it, it just won't get talked about?
I think we're going to see a lot of scrutiny over all legislators, the far right, the far left, next session. I mean, Tim Hernandez thing was interesting because he had said he went to the rally for Palestine. He got slapped. He apologized. Then he got slapped again for putting up a Palestinian flag on his desk at the State House, replacing the U.S. flag. But also, people replaced the U.S. flag with Israeli flags, and they didn't get slapped. So that is going to be an issue. His Palestinian flag. I'm saying if people can do Israel flags, he can do Palestinian. But the Elizabeth Epps suddenly turning a talk about SNAP into the Hamas-Israeli war discussion and yelling, that was not the kind of behavior we want to see. So we'll see if some of these legislators have learned lessons and can pull it back. And that's from both sides. I mean, we've seen crazy talk on both sides. But let's see if they can act like adults too. I have less hope for the legislature maybe than DPS.
I'm not at the moral equivalence place where I would say, given everything that's gone on, a Palestinian flag is the same as posting an Israeli flag. If there's a no other than U.S. flag rule, great, then enforce it. But I don't see those as the same. The issue for me watching these two is, can the leadership control them? I mean, so far with what Elizabeth Epps did, my best guess is if Dave Williams or Patrick Neville or any of the old far righters had done anything like that, they would have been censured publicly. They would have potentially had their committee, their committee assignments stripped from them. But nothing really like that happened. It was like they were negotiating with their own internal terrorists there with Epps. And I think she's undaunted and undeterred. This is going to be the great leadership challenge for the Democrats because they control everything, is what do they do to their own when their own goes nuts? There's no doubt the Republicans have their own crazies. There's no doubt about that. But they're not in control. They don't have the ability to influence or discipline or do anything to these folks. So I'm anxious to see whether Hernandez and Epps pull it back in the name of that Democrat cohesion that has been so dominant over the last 15 years, or if they're just going to be grenades that pull their own pins from time to time, and we'll just have to clean up the mess after.
We don't know what kind of discussion has gone on with Ed since, because that was the very last day of the special session
Right.
when everyone wanted to get the hell out of Dodge. So maybe there's some behind the scenes maneuvers, and we'll have a much better idea come January. Hernandez was spoken to after, he had put up the first statement about going to the rally. And I have to say there was some support of his free speech, not of his actual position with the flag from both sides of the aisle. So from both the Israeli, Daphne Michelson, who's the Israeli citizen, and she said, I don't agree with it, but you've got a right, and he is not supporting the Hamas. He's supporting the Palestinian people. But still, we will see. But he seems to have calmed down a little bit in comparison. Epps does not. So maybe they've been
It'll be
taken to the
interesting.
woodshed, but we don't know yet. Yeah.
Speaking of things
it's a wild problem for the Democrats.
It is. It's a huge problem. And it's a problem they wouldn't have to deal with as much if they were in the minority. But because they have such an overwhelming majority and control everything, the only responsibility for addressing any kind of kookiness will be with them. And that I think that's going to be a real challenge for them as they head into the 24 elections. Speaking of extreme positions on different things, have you seen at all the email that went out from the Colorado GOP from the chairman of the Colorado GOP Ballot and Election Security Committee?
Yes, and former senatorial candidate, correct? And from Ron Hanks. And you're like, really? We are still in this. It's not enough to still have the 2020 election deniers. Now we have to get into the 2023 election deniers. And what are they protesting? I mean, what are
They're
they
protesting
about?
that they're saying nothing has changed. And because of that, and I'm reading you a sentence from the last paragraph, our standing and credibility will be upheld. By the way, that's just assuming facts, not in evidence. Our standing and credibility will be upheld if we reject the corruption of the unchanged voting process in Colorado and throughout our nation. Certifying the election will imply our acceptance of a disastrous process and declare we acquiesced to their systemic fraud and personal corruption. With love, Hank Schwanger.
No, this is so appalling. And what we have until, is it the 29th that the final certification should be coming in from Colorado? There has been not a suggestion of any problems in Colorado with this election.
It's
unless
not
I've
just
missed
that.
while I was on the road for 8 hours.
No, nothing like that. The other thing is, HH got drubbed in the polls, and he even addresses that. Hank Schwanger does in his email, basically saying that shouldn't matter, right? Like, just because it got beaten by the polls, that doesn't mean we should accept the current system because it's unchanged. And we'll talk more about this, Patty, in the following segments. But I got this email, and I thought, my very first thought was, here's a guy that took up arms against the Republican nominee for the United States Senate after pledging that he would support whoever it was. And now we've made this guy, listen to this title, chairman of the Colorado GOP Ballot and Election Security Committee. Who the hell would do that? I mean, why would, of all the people to invite back into the party and put them in some sort of a leadership position and give them access to emails that hits the whole party, why this guy? Like, what is the party doing? And Patty, I know you're not a Colorado GOPer, but when you look from the outside, is this the formula for success?
No, I mean, you look at it and you think, well, you've been on the GOP ballot. What is it going to take to get a reasonable candidate? You look at Ken Buck's seat. What is it going to take to get someone through the primary process? Because Republicans, if they had reasonable candidates, would have reasonable chances statewide, but they get stopped at the primary. And that's, not every Republican is crazy. There are a lot that have very good ideas and would be attractive statewide candidates or district candidates in Congress. And are we going to see them?
I'm worried this is going to foreshadow what the party is going to do to all the candidates, not just through the primary process, but in the general election. It seems like the Republicans now are trying to figure out a way to become a minority party in the state of Colorado. I don't understand the decisions that get made here. I mean, we have a pending prosecution of Tina Peters in February by a Republican district attorney who's been on the ballot at the same time she's been on the ballot. And we're sort of stuck in this weird world, Patty, where we call into question absolutely anything and everything that will alienate us from unaffiliated voters. I don't understand what we're doing.
And the unaffiliated voter bloc keeps growing, and they have shown they don't vote as a bloc, even though I just called them the bloc. They will pick and choose. They will look at the candidates that they think best represent them, but they're not seeing them on the Republican ballot because of the shenanigans. And in 2010, Colorado came very close, the Republican Party, to becoming a minority party when Tom Tancredo jumped in as a third candidate.
That's right.
Dan Mays was a gubernatorial candidate, and that could easily happen again.
Something I'd love to talk with you about when it gets further down the road, since we're running out of time here, and that is this Kent theory floated idea of putting on the ballot a radical change to access to the ballot by candidates that would do away with the precinct, caucus, assembly system and replace it with a low-level petition signature requirement for getting on the ballot. And then it would be have you seen this thing, Patty? And then it would be a top 2 move on to, or maybe it's top 4 move on, and then they do a ranked choice voting. Have you seen that?
It's complicated. I've seen it. I haven't parsed it out yet. Ranked choice voting. I know they did it in Boulder. It was an interesting response. You did have some nail-biting moments to see who would make it. But you think about it, what would have happened with the 17 candidates? Would there have been more candidates if it had been easier to get on? But what ranked choice voting would have resulted in? I'd be interested to know if anyone's tried polling going backwards and seeing would we have had a different outcome in Denver.
It'd be hard to know.
Colorado.
Yeah, it'd be hard to know. I don't know that polling could let us know either. I'd be down with, and we'll talk about this more when it finally, because they haven't come up with the final language yet for the ballot. But I think I could be down with the idea of a jungle primary that allows the top 2 to move on. And some people freak out and be like, well, then in some places it'll only be 2 Democrats. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. But you'll have the choice between a wingnut Democrat and a not wingnut Democrat is my guess, right? And the same thing with Republicans. And so while I worry about us trying to manipulate candidates into a more moderate position, I am coming around to the idea that the electorate isn't given that opportunity early enough to make a difference. And maybe this is the way to, I don't know. I'm still open to the conversation, but Patty, I've once again talked us through all this great time. Thank you for doing this. We got to keep doing this. I hope you're willing to do it, whether you're in Arizona or back in Denver.
I'll be back in Denver this week, and I'd love to do it.
Awesome. Patty Calhoun from Westword. You can check it out. Go to Westword right now. They have tremendous stuff. We didn't even get to talk about the super cool stuff, which is all the things that they've identified that make Denver special and unique with the arts, the restaurants, all the things you can do. Westword has kind of figured out a way to carve out a place in the publication world there that I think makes it unique and different and helpful, especially if you want to make the most out of Denver. That's Patty Calhoun. Listen, when we come back, I want to revisit this issue with this email that I got. I sent it to Billy, got it just the day before Thanksgiving. If you didn't get it, that's okay. I'm going to read it to you, and we're going to talk about it. I have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. I'm just bummed it didn't come out in time for me to be able to ask D-Will about it, David Williams, the chair of the GOP, when he was on last week. But we'll ask him about it in the future. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Patty Calhoun from Westword. Love having her on. She feels like someone who could answer just about any question I throw at her without any preparation about Denver. I love her insights, too, on the individual communities, the races, the DPS stuff that you just can't get from the regular Post and Gazette kind of coverage. One of the things I talked about with her, though, and I want to talk about it with you in depth, was an email that I received. I'm on the GOP email distribution list because, of course, I'm an adult lifetime member of the GOP. I've been on the ballot 4 times, 3 times for general elections. 2 of those I won. 1 of those I did not. I've been through the assembly. Every time I've made it onto the ballot, it's been through the assembly. So I know this process. I have trusted the outcome of the elections for the ballots on which I've appeared. That includes 2018 when I embarrassingly lost to Professor Phil Weiser. And we've seen what's happened as a result of that too. But I get this email, you might have too, on Wednesday. And it was Wednesday at 12:56 p.m. So just around lunchish time, it happens. And it's titled from Ron Hanks, which is an attention getter for me, Chairman, COGOP Ballot and Election Security Committee. One, I didn't know that we had one. And I'm okay that we have one. I think it makes some sense to have one. The part I don't understand is, why is Ron Hanks in charge of it? That's the first thing. That's before we get into the substance. And I want to remind you who this guy is. This is a guy who already ran for Congress under a different name in California, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. Moves to Colorado, runs and becomes a member of the legislature, runs for the U.S. Senate, wins the assembly. 710 KNUS hosts a big-time candidate forum up at Grizzly Rose. You may remember that. And I ask all the candidates for the office the exact same thing. Will you support the Republican nominee no matter who it is? On the stage, when I do that, is Ron Hanks sitting on my left, and on my right is Joe O'Dea. Joe O'Dea gives a clever answer, which is, well, hey, I expect to win, so yeah, I'll support me. And I like Joe, but I said, no. Will you support whoever it is? That's what I need to hear a yes or no to. And he said, yes, I will. Turned to Ron Hanks without hesitation. Ron Hanks says, yes, I will. And then you know what happened. Joe O'Dea beat him. Joe O'Dea didn't change a single position that he had publicly put out there from before the primary to after the primary. So that can't be the basis for it. And then lo and behold, as we head into the general election, for a United States Senate seat we would love to have, and if we had it, we wouldn't be in the minority right now. We would be at a 50-50 tie at worst. Ron Hanks comes out, uses whatever social media platform he has, and says, I'm going to oppose Joe O'Dea. I'm going to support a libertarian candidate, and campaigned for that libertarian candidate. Now, aside from the fact that is the definition of a rhino, that is a Republican in name only, someone who wouldn't support the candidate unless it's the one that they like. Aside from that, it's also a lie then that he said he would support whoever was the Republican nominee when he knew the only option was Joe O'Dea. Joe O'Dea wins and he doesn't do it. He went back on his word to the public, to voters in the primary. That's fine. He's entitled to do all those things. But having done them, why in the hell would you put that guy in any position of prominence, leadership, supervision, policy input at all in the state GOP party? Why would you do that? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm offended by it. I'd love to ask Dave Williams about it. And at some point when he comes back on, we'll ask him. That makes no sense to me. Can you imagine what the party in its current composition would do to somebody who opposed nominee Ron Hanks for the Senate and then said, well, and I'd like to come and be in charge of the special election? Can you imagine what the party would do? I mean, we right now have rules set up because of the current leadership of the state GOP that county leaders and state leadership can actively campaign against someone who makes it to the ballot without going through the assembly, because we're so pissed off that they wouldn't go through the grassroots. We're so upset. And yet you have a guy right here who actively campaigned against our party and our party's nominee. And now we embrace him and bring him back in. What? There's something wrong with the GOP, folks. There is a sickness inside the GOP that allows us to look past the stuff we demand accountability from on others. That kind of hypocrisy, that's going to be the end of this party. That's not even the substance of this thing. Listen to this. Listen to this email. I'll read you almost everything I can from it. As chairman of the Colorado GOP Ballot and Election Security Committee, I cannot, all caps, recommend county canvass boards certify this most recent Colorado election held 7 November 2023. The reasons are self-evident, but I'll go ahead and tell you anyway. That's my editorial. Paragraph numbered 1. Nothing has changed since the 2020 elections. The voting equipment is the same. Uncertified. I'm not even sure what that means. Uncertified. Chinese-built electronics with built-in internet capability. They are not, quote, secure, unquote, by any national security definition of the word. Paragraph 2. Say that again, Bill. I want to get through the rest of this damn thing. Do we have call? Listen, let's do this. Let's cut away for a break. I'll start to entertain calls from you just on the issue of why you would make this guy the chairman of anything in a party that he rejected in the last big-time general election. I think out of ego or something. I don't know. But now he's back in. 303-696-1971 is our number. We got a bunch of texts coming in here, too. I want to get through the rest of this email. This thing's going to carry us for a bit, folks, because I'm invested in the health of the GOP. I'm not just as a would-be candidate for office, but as a guy who's been a lifetime member and who votes for the damn nominee. That's what separates me from Hank Schwanger out there and from the folks who are like, oh, I'll be a Republican as long as it suits my needs. But when it stops suiting my needs, I'll go a different direction. That's not principle. That's rhino right there. If I sound a little exercised to you, it's because I am. This is how this party dies, is with garbage like this. We'll talk about the substance of it. And by the way, if anybody wants to reach out to Hank Schwanger and have him call in and we'll have a conversation about it, I will have a conversation about it. 303-696-1971. You can give him the number. We'll take him first. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. We'll be here, little REM, 710 KNUS, talking about this email that went out from the state GOP by chairman of What's Wrong with Our Elections and Rhino, Ron Hanks, who we affectionately call Hank Schwanger here. As you know, he and I can't even remember the blonde lady's name, Billy, that were both big-time Republicans until they didn't make it onto the ballot, and then they turned their backs on the party because it's all about them. Now, they'll couch it in terms of principle, but it's all about them. Our number, 303-696-1971. We have callers on the line. You should join them. Let's try caller number 1 for the day and the week. His name is Joe. He lives in a place called Arvada.
Good morning, George.
Hey, sir. How are you? I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, man.
Oh, I did. Yes, like the rest of us, I ate too much.
Same.
You know, I did reluctantly tell you, 2 weeks ago, I think, that I do consider you at this juncture just leaning over the scale to a conservative. I have given you that because I think that you've earned it by showing your opposition at least to the chaos in the Democrat Party. That I give you. But I don't think you're qualified to start putting the thumb on Ron Hanks as a rhino.
Well, tell me why.
No way.
Tell me why.
Let me begin by saying that our nation is a republic. And as Republicans, we believe in certain principles that the framers set up that identify our candidates as representative of our beliefs and values. And if you do not do that, what happens is you have mob rule. Mob rule is what is happening in California, New York. You could go down the list of ranked choice voting. All of that moronic kind of electioneering is nothing more than an attempt by one party to gain control, just like the Communist Party in China. It is just a sprawling election system that ends up with one party controlling everything.
Tell me how this absolves Hank Schwanger of taking up arms against a Republican nominee he pledged to support during the primary process.
So let me then say that the electioneering that went on, not just in the 2020 election, but many elections prior to that in especially socialist republics like California, have destroyed our election system to the point where not only is there electioneering, but there's also flagrant fraud going on, whether you want to admit it or not.
It's not a question of admit it, Joe. I'm open to the idea if only there were proof. That's it. And I don't want to litigate that here. But
okay, now I want to direct everyone to the Gateway Pundit. Just a moment. Whenever you mention there's no proof, there are many websites now with tons of proof of the electioneering and the fraud that's
for all
going on.
sorts of fetish ideas. But Joe, come back to the Ron Hanks thing.
Okay.
Rhino.
Now,
you
going
said
back
you
to
can't
Ron
call
Hanks.
him a rhino.
Ron Hanks,
why not?
Excuse me. Ron Hanks was our choice through the Republican process of choosing who our representative would be in the Senate.
Only a part of it, the assembly. I was there. I went to the assembly. I participated.
The assembly process didn't
even get 50% of the vote, as you know.
Just a second.
Didn't even get 40%.
The assembly process is the process that Colorado has always used in the Republican Party to choose our representative candidate up until the electioneering that has happened in the last 5 years. The last 5 years, we're starting to see this open primary thing. If you want your state to look like California, if you want your cities to be just a fire with tents and all of that, if that's what you want in Colorado, go ahead and go to the open primary, discussion and let's just have mob rule.
Yeah, but get me back to Ron Hanks. And the reason I asked that is you called in to say, hey, you can't judge this guy as a rhino. I just want to be clear. At the time he's at the Grizzly Rose, at that time, when I asked both he and Joe O'Dea, will you support whoever the Republican nominee is? At no time did Ron Hanks say, well, I don't like the system that generates a potential nominee who didn't go through the assembly, or I'm not going to support him, or I'm going to pull a Trump and I'm not going to play. He didn't do any of that. He said unequivocally, without hesitation, and I applaud him for that, yes, I will. And then he did the opposite. Isn't that the definition of a Republican in name only?
I think what you are doing here is by saying, this is what happened. You're leaving out the whole story between what happened.
We're at 20 seconds, but we're at 10 seconds, buddy. I'm so sorry, man. We're just running out of time here. Listen, I'm going to keep this topic going, by the way. Stick around. George Brauchler. Call us, 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, halfway through the Monday show after Thanksgiving. Joe from Arvada, our first caller on the topic, and I apologize, Joe. I could have talked with you for several more minutes. Unfortunately, that's not how radio works. I don't get to just do what I want. So I apologize for early terminating that call, but I know that we'll have another conversation in the near future. Never did quite get the answer to the question that I posed, which in part was about the drafter of an email that got sent out to the state GOP distribution list. And I get that. I've been an elected GOP guy a bunch. I've been on the ballot a bunch more than I've been elected. And I'm invested in the Republican Party. I have been a precinct person. I have been a district captain. I have been an elected official. I have done a state central committee. I think it was the Central Committee. It could have been the both Central Committee and the Executive Committee. I have done these things because I'm invested in the health of the Republican Party, because I think we have the right ideas and the right values. But I'm also invested in the idea that any Republican is about 99.9% of the time better than the alternative out there. So here's what's happened. And I want to reset this topic a little bit before we get to the phones. An email went out from the state GOP, authored by Ron Hanks. We lovingly call him Hank Schwanger here on 710, who claims to be the chairman of the GOP Ballot and Election Security Committee. Now, you remember that Ron or Lauren or whatever he calls himself this time around ran in part on a video that he was shooting a printer or a copier or a fax machine or something like that. It felt very Office Space to me, but it was an effort to say, hey, I'm blowing up these Dominion voting machines or something like that. Ran on the stolen election thing. Interestingly, by the way, ran to be on the ballot on the stolen election thing. Anyway, he ended up, if you'll recall, in a primary with a guy named Joe O'Dea, who accessed the ballot through the petition process rather than through the assembly process. And Hanks won the assembly, but not with like 50% of the vote, with far less than 50% of the vote, because there were so many other candidates on the ballot. But nonetheless, he won. And at a forum at the Grizzly Rose that 710 sponsored, I was one of the people that got to ask questions. And I asked the question of both he and Joe O'Dea, would you support the Republican nominee, regardless of who it is? The answer was unequivocal, without hesitation, from Ron Hanks, yes. And then you'll recall that after he lost to Joe O'Dea, he then campaigned against Joe O'Dea and for whoever the libertarian candidate was that you and I can't name, because there's no chance on the planet Earth that they would ever win the election. So he sends out this email. I started reading it to you in the 7 o'clock hour. This is paragraph 2 here before we get to the calls. Colorado's voter rolls remain a playground for election manipulators, despite Judicial Watch's lawsuit and victory over Soros-funded partisan hack Jenna Griswold, Colorado's dismal Secretary of State. Dude's got the Harlequin romance thing down when it comes to writing these emails. To be clear, the lawsuit victory he's talking about was a settled outcome. Now, if a settlement is a victory, then Dominion got a huge victory over Fox News, because Fox News settled that lawsuit on the issue of their reporting of the stolen election fraud stuff to the tune of nearly $800 million, like a ton of money. But that's not how settlements work. That's not what they call a victory. Nonetheless, that's where we're at right now with the description. As an example, please consider the 30,000 non-citizens who were sent notices and instructions on how to register and vote by Jenna Griswold and her team. By the way, that in no way indicates that those ballots will be counted. That's just not how it works. But I get it. It's a concern. I don't want them being sent there either. As a result of rule changes, the canvass boards have been rendered irrelevant by the Colorado Secretary of State. They are effectively a facade of, I mean, this guy's just Roger. He's the Republican Roger when it comes to these emails. They are effectively a facade of citizen oversight and a rubber stamp. Under new rules, canvass boards review and sign off on 2 computer-generated tallies, both unverifiable. And as the rules read today, any canvass board concern can be ignored and overturned by the Secretary of State by fiat. Nothing has changed to make elections more accurate and transparent, and the canvass board has been made irrelevant. So why should any patriot, capital P, patriot, certify such a rigged system? Now, keep in mind, Fox News, when they settled and apparently lost the lawsuit against Dominion, at no time defended on the truth of their statements and their reporting. At no time did Fox News say, but the elections were stolen. Here's the evidence. Because had they done that, they win. They win big time. They get their attorney's fees. And they spend the next year doing a victory lap around Fox News about how they crushed Dominion with the truth of the stolen election. But you know what? They didn't. They just settled. Why? And yet here we are with this statement that it's a rigged system. There's more stuff in here. I also find this hypocrisy amazing. In one of the paragraphs, he says, consistency matters. This is why he says we should oppose the 2023 election where HH got drubbed. Consistency matters. The previous concerns of the people have not been addressed by the corrupted, power-hungry hostiles controlling our government. Hostiles. We should be on record as having rejected the unchanged election process because it is a sham, controlled by a one-party system comprised of Democrat and Republican posers. What? I love it how it begins. Consistency matters. Is it the consistency of saying you'll support the Republican nominee and then taking up arms against them when you lose? That doesn't seem all that consistent. There's more stuff that goes on here. I'll get it to you, but I want to get to the calls if we can. Hey, say that again. Let's do this. Aaron's been on hold. We have actually Matt Crane on the phone. Let me get Aaron on first. Then we'll get Matt. We'll take Matt as long as we can take him because dude knows election stuff. He was the Republican, of course, clerk and recorder for Arapahoe County. Let's go to Aaron. Aaron, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think?
Well, I'm not, George. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised you're surprised because the thing is, though, the GOP has been dysfunction for decades in this state. So I'm not surprised that this guy did a flip on O'Day, and then I think O'Day was the one who ran against Michael Bennet, right?
He did.
Yeah, he did. And then what does O'Day do? Instead of focusing on Michael Bennet, he goes on CNN and wants to talk about Trump. Are you kidding me? So the Republican Party and Democrat is so dysfunctional. They're so messed up. So I'm not surprised you bring in some guy who's part of the establishment, aka a rhino, whether it's state or at the federal level. I mean, these jokers just talk a good game, but when you got to play the game on the field, when you actually got to show up and get to work and get busy, you can't find them. Hello. Anyway, George, have a good morning.
Aaron, can I ask you, man, a question? And that is, as you sit out there and survey the Republican Party, is this the issue that we carve out for 2024 that's going to lead us to victory anywhere? And that is the idea of continuing to replay the stolen election stuff from 2020. Is that the path to victory in Colorado?
Well, of course not. I mean, that's gone. But what gets me though about this stuff is that when it came to Trump, Trump has a right to say he got robbed. Hey, this is America. This ain't China. This ain't North Korea. This ain't Russia. This is America. And if you think if you thought you got screwed after you're busting your butt to campaign to be dog catcher in the state of Colorado, that's your right. But what drives me so nuts about all this stuff? So what? It doesn't matter. So I mean, whether like Bill, like Buck. Well, I'm leaving because the party has just gone nuts. All this election denier and all this stuff. So what? Doesn't matter. Focus on what's important for this country. What's important? That election is history. Even if Trump, who will win the nomination, campaigns of it, doesn't matter. Focus on the upcoming election 2024. That's history. Got to focus on what's important, what's going on at the border. The country's broke. I mean, I have a list so long it stretches from Denver, Colorado to the moon, George, to the moon. It's got. I mean, the insanity has got to stop. Charity begins at home. Take care of business at home. Take care of business at home. I don't care what's going on in Ukraine, Israel, all that stuff. America, this country comes first. American citizens come first. Everything else it comes. Everything else goes down the toilet. So, but anyway, I could go on and on, George, because hearing this dysfunction by the GOP in the state of Colorado are perennial losers, George, losers. But anyway, I could go on and go. Have a good morning, George.
Aaron, and thank you, man, for the call.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, do you think the GOP wants to win?
No, George. No.
Losing?
I mean, hell, it took them 40 years to get back the House at the federal level. 40 years, George. That's called losers, George. Losers.
I know. Hey, Aaron, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Aaron's line is open at 303-696-1971. We're going to go to the VIP line. And if you can stay, we'll take you all the way up to a break, Matt, and then move on. But former clerk and recorder, now executive director, or it could be Commodore. I'm not sure which military-like term you have for all clerks of Colorado. What's it called again?
Executive director of the Colorado County Clerks Association.
Matt Crane, who also has run elections as the clerk and recorder for Arapahoe County. Matt, thanks for coming on and giving us some of your busy time. This email, did you receive a copy of this?
I did. I'm on a state GOP email as well.
What did you think when you saw it?
It just made me shake my head because it's the same BS these folks have been peddling now. Even after we see Sidney Powell say that she lied and Jenna Ellis say that she lied and Mark Meadows say that he lied. And Mark Meadows went even further to say he agreed with the statement that came out from many different government agencies right after the 2020 election that it was the safest and most secure that we've ever had. But nothing is going to shake these people off this lie because it gives them political and financial advantage to do so.
Some of the issues that were raised here by Hank Schwinger in the email talk about, I mean, I'm reading some stuff here. As time marches headlong toward, I mean, this guy has got some prose skills, man. As time marches headlong toward the 2024 presidential election, we have every reason to expect additional election manipulation. And I love the use of the term additional because it presupposes that it existed before, be it through fraudulent ballots, inflated voter rolls, mail-in ballots with no chain of custody, dubious drop boxes stuffed with harvested ballots, or electronic intrusion and data corruption. The unscrupulous enemy has not stood idly by while we uncover their methods in previous elections. Man, you're obviously invested in the idea of making sure that the clerks are putting out the best product possible. And by the way, of the breakdown of clerks, are there 62 of them, man, in the state?
There's 64 clerks, 63 are elected. Broomfield is
63 elected. Do you know what the breakdown is, Republican and Democrat?
I believe it's about 38 of the 64, somewhere in that neck of the woods, are Republican, 15 or 16 Democrat, and the rest unaffiliated.
Okay, now that's an overwhelming number of Republicans, by the way, given the other two breakdowns. My guess is they're each invested in trying to make sure they provide the best election possible. Are these the things they're talking about, these elected clerks and recorders? And I don't know if they're considered part of the power-hungry hostiles that control our government, but fraudulent ballots, inflated voter rolls, mail-in ballots, the stuffing of, are these the issues that you guys are most concerned about with our current election system?
Well, right now we are focused on making sure that we provide an accessible and secure election for the citizens in Colorado. But emails like this or statements that others in leadership of the Colorado GOP have made recently take our attention away because it drives concerns, it drives calls. And so we have to spend time diving into this BS and going through and shooting it down one at a time. The thing about Ron Hanks, let's not forget about him. he has been invited multiple times. I don't know if he still lives in Fremont County, but at least when he was a candidate, spreading lies about the election, he had been invited multiple times by Justin Grantham, the clerk down there, to come into the office, to take a tour, to see the systems firsthand, to ask questions. He never took him up on that offer to do so. Not once.
Why not?
Not once.
Wouldn't you want to go see where the mischief gets made?
I would think so. That only stands to reason.
As you
but
know,
reason isn't a strong point for these folks, George.
No, this really is a matter of emotion. It's a matter of faith, almost like faith in Jesus. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't see it, but I believe it exists. I can't touch it, but I believe it exists. As you know, man, when I was running for office, even that failed statewide race that I had against Professor Phil, I came out to your shop and took a tour of how you guys do the whole thing, because I was interested. And then I did the same thing up in Denver. It was important to me to kind of see how it all got done. I can't imagine a candidate talking crap about an election having never once stepped foot into the election place to do the tour.
No, that's exactly right. I understand he went to the Arizona, the Cyber Ninjas exercise, which has been discredited all over the place, but he doesn't have the time to go and actually hear the facts from his clerk and recorder. A Republican, a very strong conservative Republican, by the way.
Not even just hear the facts, but how about just grill him? How about go through the process and say, tell me about this. Tell me about how you guaranteed this. I remember going through the Arapahoe one, and there were two people going blind, staring at signatures, trying to, and one was a Republican, one was a Democrat, trying to figure out, so the idea that this is all just some sort of computer-driven, internet hacked thing where the tally is presupposed, I didn't see it. I don't, it's not like it's air gap technology, but the idea that he says it's internet enabled, talk about that piece of it, because there's a lot of folks out there that are like, oh, it's plugged into the internet. Anybody from China can hack right in and change the vote so that Joe O'Day wins the primary.
Right. It's so absurd. And he gets so much wrong in this letter. He really could have used the time with his clerk and recorder down there. In terms of the voting system and the internet capability, these systems are certified by the federal government and the state of Colorado, understanding that there are Wi-Fi and Bluetooth components in them. Here in Colorado, our laws say that functionality has to be turned off, and we have the ability to verify that now. To be able to do that. And as a matter of fact, we're also seeing the market, which, I tried to start moving this way back in 2018. Unfortunately, I lost, so we couldn't get it rolling. But we are seeing now the voting system companies come out with components that don't have that capability. And more and more counties in Colorado are moving to those components in their voting system now. So the systems were never connected here in Colorado to the internet. But it was just something that grifters and bad actors like to spread to build fear in people, so people will either vote for them or donate money to them. But if you look at the rest of this email, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I was just going to ask you, if you look at our election system, the way it's set up right now, and as the former Republican clerk who had to run these things, this is a guy who's appeared on the ballot. What's that one big thing you'd love to see change that you think that would make it better, if anything?
I think, and this is one thing that we're working on as an association, is we want to do more and more to be transparent and to provide evidence that our elections are more evidence that our elections are on the up and up. So, what does that mean? This is something that we've identified a couple of years ago. We want to make cast vote records and ballot images available after each election for free. We're working towards that. We are improving. Yeah, we're improving the auditing around our signature verification process right now. We've done a pilot now in multiple elections. After this, we're going to focus on voter registration audits to be able to go through that. And the purpose is to say, look, if there's a gap in any of these processes, we want to be able to know that and correct that. But then two, also have the data to stand up and say, look, we have examined this. It's either revealed a gap or it hasn't, and it's working properly as it should. So we are continuing to work on this, each and every day. And this is something that election officials have been leading, local election officials, not just since 2020, but before that, because we don't just show up on election day and then go home the other 364 days out of the year, right? This isn't a one-day-a-year job. This election officials are a professional group that go through certification processes. There's continuing education processes. It's a very professional group who have made this their career to try to provide elections that are accessible and secure for American citizens, because that's what we deserve.
Matt Crane, he is the executive director of the County Clerks Association. Am I getting even close to getting that right?
Yes. Yes, sir. Colorado County Clerks Association.
Colorado County Clerks Association. That's the CCCA. Hey, man, I know you're busy this morning, but can you stick around for a quick break? Because I want to ask you about something that Tina Peters filed in court and some allegations that were made in there. Have you had a chance to look at that?
I have.
Yeah. Can you stick around for a little bit after this break?
Sure. Happy to, sir.
Hey, we're talking with Matt Crane. Dude knows elections. And, oh, by the way, a Republican. I think as far as I know, forever a Republican. I'm going to cut away for a break. Not before I tell you about a guy who, like me, is an evidence-based guy. Doesn't make decisions based off of whim. Makes decisions based off of facts. And the facts that this guy relies upon are the facts that you have a righteous case. You were hurt by some other person, some other company, it could be a building, it doesn't matter. You suffer an injury that you shouldn't have suffered, a life-changing injury, and he will go to bat for you. And he will put together the evidence, not to show up to court and wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the jury. We all know what happened here, or please vote for my client because you should have faith that the other guy. It's not how it works. Dan puts together facts, takes those facts, goes to court and beats the heck out of the insurance companies and the wrongdoers if they won't come to their senses ahead of time. Give him a call. He and Bobber have been doing this now forever. Dan for decades. Bobber, he's coming up on, it's got to be 17 years at this point. Give him a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check him out at Dan Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, DanCaplisLaw.com. When we come back, me, Matt Crane, this election stuff, your texts that are coming in, and your phone calls at 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KUS. My thanks to Matt Crane. He is the Executive Director and Commodore of the Colorado Clerks Association here in Colorado. That's the word Colorado County. Anyway, I'm going to get it right probably after he's off the air. Matt, thanks for joining us.
You bet. It's good to be here, sir.
You have some huge fan right here in one of our texts. I want to read you the text and give you a chance to respond to them because they have these questions. Maybe you can ask Matt if his wife is still on Dominion's payroll. Also, still attending the Dominion barbecue, Matt. Same texter. Also, ask him how much payola Dominion is sending him. Finally, are they writing him a check for his political campaigns? It is a fair question, which should be openly stated. Dare you respond, Matt Crane?
Yes, my wife Lisa did work for Dominion. She worked for Sequoia before Dominion bought them out. She works on ballot layouts. So a lot of counties, like in Arapahoe, we had staff that when we got the ballot certified, we had internal staff that would lay the ballot out and get those PDFs over to the printer to create the ballots. A lot of counties don't have that expertise here in Colorado and across the country. So Dominion has staff that will assist in that ballot layout process. So that's what my wife did for them for many, many years. She was not sales. She was not in management. She was a worker bee, a self-described worker bee. She left full-time employment with Dominion in 2019. And then she still does some contract work when they get busy and need some help with ballot layout. She still does some contract work there on the side. But my wife working for Dominion is something that's been in the public square and covered since 2005. We've never run from it. We've never hidden from it. And as a matter of fact, in 2013, when Nancy Doty she was a former clerk in Arapahoe, and she became county commissioner. And there was the Board of County Commissioners had to appoint a new clerk. I won that process. And as a part of that process, there was an independent citizen ethics committee in Arapahoe County that considered whether or not it was a conflict of interest. It's a bipartisan group. They came back unanimously with a report to the commissioners saying that it wasn't a conflict of interest, and they trusted me to do that. And that opinion was authored by Randy Corcoran, who was one of the people who was on that ethics committee. So
I've heard that name before.
Once or twice, right?
We have a radio host on this station named Randy Corcoran. Are they related?
Yeah, they are. And Randy also nominated me at my first assembly as clerk in 2014. So this has been in the public square. It is nothing new, but again, it's used by bad actors because I won't lie and say the election was stolen. Then these bad actors go and try to say that there's something nefarious going on when it has literally been in the public square, George, since 2005. Every boss or the county, everybody has known about this throughout the entire process. I've been open and transparent about it from Jump Street.
This person texted in after that lengthy answer, which I would say is openly stated, all caps, 3 exclamation points, compromised. I do want to follow up on a couple of things the texter asked real quick. Is there a Dominion barbecue, and is it good?
There was. So what they're referring to is there was a county clerks conference in Salida back in 2018, and Dominion hosted a barbecue at one of their employees' house. And so I and most other clerks who were Dominion customers went. I think had a bratwurst and then went on to other functions. So the barbecue that day was very good. That's just one of those things that people try to use to say, oh, and let me tell you how secretive this was, George. The people, the gateway pundit, grifters like that, they went and found that. You know where they found that I was there? It wasn't in some secret file. It was from Lynn Bartle's Facebook page. Lynn Bartles, who may have more friends in Colorado than anybody else. So again, really trying to hide something nefarious here.
Reporter Lynn Bartles.
Exactly.
Well, if you were trying to hide it, Matt, you suck at it because giving it to Lynn,
look, if I'm in on the fix, George, I really suck at that too because I lost my election. So if I was so good at fixing elections, don't you think I would have won?
That's just it. They eat their own, Matt. You did their bidding and then they turned on you.
I know, but I'm like you. I'm a rhino. I'm a rhino to these folks now, even though I'm as conservative as anybody. But don't let facts get in the way of a good lie, George. Do not let facts get in the way of a good lie.
Rhino is really just a label, whatever you want to make of it. It doesn't mean anything. No one can actually define it. And the fact that we have invited into any leadership position within our party a guy who actively campaigned against our Republican nominee, it sickens me. I don't understand how we could get there. This isn't like the 2010 thing where the party figured out a way to nominate a complete and total fraud. Anyway, that's an aside. Let me get to the Tina Peters thing. Now, as folks may recall, Tina Peters has been prosecuted now. She's in the process of the second one, but the first trial resulted in a conviction against her. She received some kind of a meaningless slap on the wrist sentence, and she now has a second bigger trial set for February for her role in whatever she did in the Mesa County office. Now, this thing's been going on for a long, long time. And it has now resulted in her team filing a lawsuit in federal district court saying, pretty please stop everybody from trying to hold me accountable under the law because it's unfair. They don't like me. It's a violation of my First Amendment rights. Now, this complaint is, or it's a request for an injunction, is about 42, 43 pages long. Matt, have you taken a look at that?
Yeah, I've been through most of it.
What's your takeaway from there?
To me, it's just a desperate attempt to try to avoid going to trial early next year. It's the same talking points that she's been pushing out since she did this. And for real election administrators, people who understand the process and the systems, every time she talks, it's obvious that she doesn't understand election processes and systems. If she was concerned about the way that her systems were performing or some kind of nefarious activity, she could have validated that in a million different ways, stealing somebody's identity, turning off the cameras where it had been their standing operating procedure to leave them on for at least a decade, and sneaking somebody in on a Sunday afternoon when no other staff was there to be able to do that. And then allow the image of her voting system to get out into the wild to where any nefarious bad actor could now create a roadmap on how to break into that system if they got physical access to it, which is why one of the things we never talk about, but you have to get physical access to each of these components to do something. But yeah, it's a desperate attempt by her. And I think to avoid the trial, to continue to fundraise, because when she goes out there and asks people to send money for her legal campaign and she lies to you about it, she's stealing your money to cover her own backside. So if you're one of those people who's thinking about continuing to support her legal campaign, please stop, because she is lying to you.
Matt, some of the things she put in the complaint, and then we'll talk about some of the things she didn't. You touched upon a little of it. One of the things that she says is, hey, she didn't commit any violation of any rule, ordinance, law of any kind when she took that election data and gave it to 3 unvetted strangers who are claimed, election integrity experts or whatever they are. And I don't know the answer to this. Is that true? It's okay to just give the election data to anyone you want?
No, and first of all, none of those folks are election experts. And if you read the reports that came out of Mesa based on the images, they are laughably bad in terms of their conclusions. So they are not experts in election systems. She says she did nothing wrong, but then I think, George, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a list of 11 felonies and misdemeanors that she's been charged with. So of course, everybody deserves due process. We'll see what happens there. I also think it's funny she never references how she stole somebody's identity. Like, if this was all on the up and up, she why did she have to steal somebody's identity around the same time?
That to me is that's the exact right question to ask, because she falls prey to what every person that has been prosecuted for burglary falls prey to, and that is the idea that I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be detected.
Right.
She acts guilty. If she thinks she's acting lawfully, why the subterfuge?
100%. Well, and the other thing too, so around the same time, right, when a lot of the bad actors were starting to push this idea that the systems weren't certified and they were deleting records and such, Angela Myers, who was the former clerk in Larimer County, she's like, well, I hear some of that. I better get a backup of this stuff just to be sure, so I can figure out what's what here. She called the Secretary of State's office. They walked her through how to back up the files, and she did it legally and in the sunshine of day. She didn't steal somebody's identity.
Which county
turn
is
off
this?
the cameras. Larimer County, Angela Myers.
That's so interesting. Someone else who, I don't know that he got in really any trouble for it, but it's an important conversation piece for this, is Dallas out in Elbert County. Dallas made a backup, didn't give it to anybody, just hung on to it, I think. And then the Secretary of State's office, who did he give it to?
He gave it to his attorney. It was really strange. He gave it to his attorney, and the attorney admitted that the chain of custody was broken. The seal was broken on the image. He said it happened in his car, but there's no way to validate that.
But what's interesting is Dallas went back and hand counted. Didn't they conduct a full hand count of the Elbert County election? And what did it show?
He did it in May of 2020, and it was a fantastic thing. There was a lot of questions about it, and he and Rhonda Brown, who is the clerk down there now, Dallas is the commissioner
Rhonda's
now.
Great.
They did
Love
a hand
Rhonda.
count.
Yeah.
I think it was a 3-vote difference, as I recall, and those 3 votes, it was an interpretation error, I think, through adjudication. So it showed that their system was extremely accurate.
That's impressive. I mean, that part gets left out too. The other thing is the fake ID thing is crazy, especially if you think it's all on the up and up. But the other part was turning off the cameras, which you mentioned. What? Does every election ballot counting place have cameras on? If so, is that by law or by choice? And then 2, what are the good reasons for turning them off?
So every central count facility in the state has cameras, access controls, the whole 9 yards. At the time Tina did this, it was not required that they were on 24/7, 365. It was only 24/7 during the active election when that was going on. But it had been the standard operating procedure in Mesa County, and I talked to Sheila Reina, the clerk before Tina, for at least 10 years that those cameras stayed on 24/7, 365. She turned them off right before the breach. And then she snuck in the guy on a Sunday afternoon with the stolen credential.
That part is the wacky part, man, is setting that guy up for failure too, but saying, hey, we'll bring you on board. Let's make you a credential. And then I don't think he even ever got it or something. They're like, oh, can we have that back? And then
that's right.
Gave it to
that's right.
That is a guilty conscience. That is guilty conduct. That is not the conduct of someone who's like, hey, I'm doing this completely on the up and up. Why not just Facebook Live it? You know what I mean? Or create a video that you put up. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it at the time you're doing it. If you're not worried at all about the legality of it, why hide it?
Only because the thing I can think of most, George, is that Tina was a useful idiot for grifters and bad actors who wanted to get their hands on that voting image. And now she's looking at having to spend time in jail. Those folks aren't. But the guy she snuck in, I don't know if you know this, he was involved allegedly in another election security breach, I think in Coffee County, Georgia, I think.
Holy smokes. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, paid for by Patrick Byrne, the former Overstock guy who is going around spreading the lies about the stolen election.
Interestingly,
so there's a whole national conspiracy working on this.
Her legal team is the same legal team that got kicked right in the legal junk out in Georgia when they tried to stop the certification of the election by suing Raffensperger, I think.
Right.
And the district court came back in like 8 days and was like, no. And got rid of it. Now, of course, that's because the fix was in, Matt, as you know, at every level of government. When we don't get our way, it's because of a conspiracy. The proof of it is the fact that there is no proof of it. They've hidden all the proof, Matt. Now, listen, I know you got to cut away, man. Thank you for this. We'll have you on again in the future as these things pop up. I just appreciate you on short notice jumping in here to answer some of these questions.
Hey, George, can I have one quick sec? So one of the other things about Hanks's email when he says there's no citizen oversight, it's absurd because who is it that actually conducts the elections? It's our citizen election judges appointed by the political parties. They are the ones who verify signatures, verify eligibility, tabulate ballots. We have our post-election audits here. Who is that audit board comprised of? Political party appointed citizens. Our canvas board, political party appointed citizens. To say that we don't have citizen oversight of our elections is completely absurd when it's our citizens who actually conduct the elections. So I just wanted to reinforce that with everybody. Our citizens are involved in this. And if you want to help, sign up to be a poll worker. We'd love to have you.
Matt Crane, he is the executive director / Commodore of the Colorado County Clerks Association. Buddy, we'll have you on again in the future. Take care.
Yeah, sounds good. You too, my friend. Thank you.
That's Matt Crane. We're going to cut away for a break. We're going to get your phone calls at 303-696-1971. I'll read some of these texts that are coming in here. What's going on with this email, by the way? And I need you to tell me, Does it make sense for the party to rely upon a guy who took up arms against a party nominee for a major office? Does it make sense to put them in charge? And if so, why? I imagine if you're not calling, it's because you can't figure out a good defense for him. I can't either. And then I'd love to hear, is this the topic that gets us into the end zone here in 2024? Continuing to rehash the same tired arguments abandoned by Fox News in their $8 jillion settlement of their lawsuit by Dominion. Before we cut away for a break, I got to tell you about our friends at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics are the people that have figured out a way to take this revolutionary regenerative medicine technology and use it on everyday folks like you and me. So if you've got that lingering, that chronic pain in your knees, your joints anywhere, shoulders, hips, lower back, maybe even neck, you got to reach out to our friends at QC Kinetics and figure out how to do that one day in and out outpatient treatment. It's a needle. It's not a scalpel. It's not a bunch of pills. It's not a long period of rehabilitation and downtime. There are tens of thousands of people who have done this, and they're out there living life pain-free. Why not you? Check them out at qckinetics.com. The letter Q, the letter C, kinetics.com. You Google them, you'll find them right away. Read all that stuff, but I would not ever pull the trigger just off of that. You got to give them a call. You got to call them. And you, by the way, you can use your HSA and FSA numbers on this as well. Check them out at qckinetics.com. That's the letter Q, the letter C, kinetics.com. When we come back, we'll get to your calls, your text. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Just a little bit of time before we wrap up this third of 4 hours. And we'll come back. We're going to keep this conversation going. We got callers on the line, including Adam. You can join him at 303-696-1971. Would you certify the 2023 election? And is the Republican Party dying? Is this evidence of it? Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, final hour of the Monday show after this long, well-deserved Thanksgiving break. We are running now headlong into the Christmas holidays. It is Cyber Monday. No idea if you're out there spending money or not, or even going to a store to get it done. I think in years past we would have done something about Black Friday and standing as I think that's all largely dead. I think there were crowds and stuff at the mall, but nothing like we used to report upon. Nonetheless, I want to get right back to what we were talking about. Received an email after the show, but before Thanksgiving, from the state GOP, from a guy named Ron Hanks. If you remember Ron, he is the Republican who campaigned against the guy that defeated him in the Republican primary for the United States Senate just a little bit ago, back at a time when we had such a critical election cycle, when we were deciding whether or not we were going to send Michael Bennet back to the United States Senate or a Republican. And of course, Ron decided he was going to cheer for Bennet by campaigning against the Republican in favor of a no-name, can't remember who it is, libertarian guy. That guy has sent out an email saying that we should not certify the 2023 election, the one in which HH got beaten like a baby harp seal, drubbed out of existence. We had conservatives win in a bunch of seats on school boards across the state of Colorado. Not so in Douglas County. And by the way, I haven't heard any of the Douglas County folks talk about election fraud costing them the election. Instead, and this is probably its own conversation, we had 3 legit Republican conservatives running for the school board for the 3 open seats that are currently held by the libs. And they were defeated in large part because the Republican Party in Douglas County had some sort of this weird purity test where they actually campaigned against them and would not support them because of, I think, their support for 5A and 5B. That's right. Our problem with winning has nothing to do with a rigged election system that has yet to be proven. It has everything to do with the circular firing squad that is the GOP right now here in the state of Colorado. And we've got, and in very many counties, we've got to do better than that. 303-696-1971. Here's some of the text before we get to Adam. Since you're talking about voting, did you hear MLB All-Star Game is being held in Atlanta next year? Funny thing is, none of their voting rights have changed. That is funny. That is a good point here. Someone sent me a couple texts. One is Ron the Rhino is part of the RMGO mafia. That doesn't surprise me at all. They're the ones that want to rearm convicted felons. It's like everything else. Just keep saying the same thing over and over, and then it has to be true, right? That could be. Sorry, what I said had more content than completely understandable sentences, but my point is Hanks and the others have no understanding of computer architecture or how computers work. I've talked to Peters, Hanks, and others several times, and for sure realize that they are not smart about this at all. Now, I'm a rhino, even though I've worked with programming IT for 45 plus years. It's such a great point. If you disagree with them, you're a rhino. That's the new definition of rhino. Do you disagree with me? You are a rhino. And you don't have to disagree with me on principle or on values. You just have to disagree with me on whether the election was stolen or not. Another video. I'm going to have to look at that another time. Our buddy Eric Manning, George, show us proof that Fox paid the hush money to Eric Coomer, Dominium, I think you mean Dominion, and Smartomatics. Be about, don't talk about, show me the money that was paid, huh? Eric, I'll be honest. I can usually noodle through your texts better than this. I can't understand what you're asking. I only know what's been put out there publicly. Fox was sued for a whole bunch of defamation-related things. They could have defended, complete defense, on the idea that what they said was truthful. And if it had been truthful, that case goes the way of the dodo. Instead, they said, how about we scratch you a check for more than $750 million? Now, while that's not a plea of guilty, that tells me that they did not have the ability to prove the truth of what they had alleged. I don't know what you make of that. For me, it tells me that I would rather prove the truth of it than write a check for more than $750 million. But that's me. I'm a different breed of cat. It may be that the Murdoch clan was like, let's just get rid of this. Is nuisance suit money. $750 million. We have that in the couch cushions. I don't know. but it tells me that they don't have the goods either. I'm completely open-minded to evidence. I am not completely open-minded to baseless speculation and just faith and emotion on this issue. Just can't do it that way. That's not how America works. It's not how we've ever worked. It's not how we ever should work. It cannot be, well, the fact that we can't prove it is proof of the conspiracy. Just say it out loud. Well, they've covered it all up, George. The people that couldn't cover up Watergate have covered up the greatest election fraud in the history of the world. I don't think so. Adam, you're on 710 KNUS. Adam, what do you think?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Well, let's see. How are you doing?
I mean, I'm a leftist, so I don't think much, eh?
What do you think about all this stuff that's going on?
I think your party elected a 4-year-old, and this is all the result of him not being able to psychologically handle a loss. I wrote about this in 2018 in my longstanding journal, that the 2020 election was not going to go well, and if Trump lost, he would decry fraud and there would be violence. I thought the violence would get a lot worse. January 6th was a lot tamer than I thought, so I guess I should be happy. But he's gone full fascist, calling people like me vermin that need to be rooted out. And I really am concerned about the direction the radical extreme direction the Republican Party's headed in nationwide.
Couple things. One, I think that this guy is going to end up being the party's nominee. Maybe Nikki Haley can come around the last turn here and overtake him, but I'm not that optimistic about that. Like, she is battling to be the banana queen. And what I mean by that is second place. That's what we used to call it in swimming. I think she's battling for second place. And looking at the polls, Adam, it looks like if this guy becomes the nominee, he could very well be the president again.
I think that's likely. I think Joe Biden is a disgrace. He's a warmongering Wall Street whore. And Trump is probably going to run to the left on war, even though it'll be BS rhetoric. But somehow the collective IQ of this country remains about 82, 83, and enough of them are buying into this snake oil pitch. So it's depressing if you're an educated person to watch what's happening in this country. I used to just have good faith disagreements with my opponents, and now we're both enemies, and it's just gotten so extreme.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too. Are you in a position, and you've described yourself as a leftist, that may have been somewhat tongue-in-cheek, I don't know, but are you in a position in your life where you can have conversations with people who hold values and principles different than yours anymore? Or do you think it's turned so toxic that you can't express yourself?
Well, I'm a political junkie, so I keep trying in spite of myself. But the last time I went to a Trump rally to talk to people at the state capitol here, there were about 50 people gathered there. When I would try to talk sense, everybody would just start yelling pedophile. Joe Biden's a pedophile. I don't know. I don't know how you have that seems like a conversation stopper to me.
Is the election integrity stuff a conversation that anyone's having outside of this portion of the Republican Party?
Well, no, but the portion of the Republican Party is the majority. So it's not a fringe, right? I mean, the polls show 2/3 of the Republicans, maybe even more, think the last election was stolen, or the presidential election, I mean. But no, on the left, nobody's talking about that. We want health care, and we want better wages, and an end to gun violence, an end to a massive decrease in military spending, all the things Bernie talks about, all the things we leftists have been advocating for decades, that for some reason we just can't seem to have in this country. So,
then you have no legitimate opposition to Biden that's reared their head at this point. And I don't know if it's because they're waiting for him to have a medical issue, and I hope he doesn't, but a medical issue that necessitates him leaving office or just saying he's not going to run again. I don't have any idea, but you don't have a good alternative right now.
Well, I'm a leftist, so I hate the Democrats even more than the Republicans. Joe Biden is at best a right-wing politician. The most generous characterization I could give of him would be center-right. And I'm comparing.
You described Biden that way? Who did you describe as center right?
Joe Biden is a right wing politician. He took more money from Wall Street in 2020 than any U.S. president in history. $78 million, according to Open Secrets. second place only to Hillary Clinton, who was not elected. So he's,
Well, I'm not
he's
sure
just the
Wall
most
Street
openly corrupt president.
the definition of right wing or conservative.
Well, he's dropping bombs. He can't spend enough money on war into the military-industrial complex. He loves them. He said he would veto Medicare for all. What's that? That's what every Republican would do. How is he left wing? He can't get a minimum wage passed because of the parliamentarian. He makes these excuses. See, he's in a bind. He has to appear to posture progressively, but his financial backers won't let him actually do anything substantively. And it's not really working, right? The college debt forgiveness, he's sort of a big rhetorical flirt, and then it didn't really happen. So
he's forgiven tons of money, not everything that he was asked to forgive, but he's
up to 10,000. It was supposed to be, well, I mean, we on the left want all the debt forgiven. He pledged to forgive a lot more than he did. But from the $1,400 checks to the not being able to raise minimum wage to the incessant warmongering, the violation of his pledge to ban oil leases on federal lands. He's approved more than Trump had at this point. The guy is a Wall Street whore. He's a corporatist. That's why the country is lurching so far right. The Republicans get in and jump 3 steps to the right, and the Democrats get in and hold it steady or maybe baby step a tiny bit to the left. And 4 decades of this has brought us to the libertarian dream, where the American working class is crushed and 1% have all the wealth. This is libertarian.
If I'm one of the listeners, I'd probably ask you, please explain what's conservative about our porous southern border and our approach to immigration.
Well, that's one issue, but he's maintained some of the Trump policies. It's not an open border. That's just a lie. People are being deported. The Border Patrol is still working. That's just a lie. But the immigration isn't my major issue. Immigration, that's like, it's a scapegoating, right? Wall Street doesn't want us talking about corporate crime and wars, so they go, hey, look at those woke idiots and look at those immigrants. Those are your enemies. It's deflection. Immigration is not a top 10 issue. Healthcare, war, taxes.
For who? It's not a top 10 issue for
money,
who?
For the American people that have brains. Money in campaigns.
Adam, they're all over the streets of Denver. We just listened to Patty Calhoun in the 7 o'clock hour talk about how there are these tent cities popping up with all of these migrants that have been allowed in under these new, whatever they are, one visas, these new refugee status that they give to favored countries that they want to bring on in here without any scrutiny. They're everywhere, and they do have an impact on the economy. New York City, who's just having some of them show up, New York City's going crazy. I mean, Mayor Adams is saying it's over.
Enough luxury condos in Denver, so we're not doing anything to solve the homeless problem, right? Because our city government and state government are also bought by corporate interests.
The homeless problem is not the same thing as the immigration problem that we have.
Those are not the issues that I'm most interested in. I have described how I feel about immigration and how I feel about wokeness. Those are deflections that the right wing uses to keep us from holding corporations accountable for the destruction of our republic. Every sector of our government is run by corporate interests. This is a kleptocracy. It's a joke. We all know it's a joke. The problem is that too many on the right are too stupid to understand who's bending them over and sodomizing them. It's not the immigrants and it's not the woke left. That's just what Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson and all these other snake oil BS artists want to sell you. It's a profitable product. I don't blame them. They're all doing very well.
Do you trust the integrity of the elections?
I think the count is probably accurate. I have no reason to doubt it. But it's corporate whore A against corporate whore B. So I'm not all that interested. I'm throwing my vote away for maybe Cornel West. I don't know. I'm done with the whole system. You guys have fun. I appreciate you talking to me though, George, and I hope you have a good day. I'm going to go smoke some weed and walk in the woods.
Yeah. Thanks. I'll call back later too. I mean, I love the conversation, and I think for a lot of folks out there, they don't ever get to hear folks express these kinds of views and answer questions and stuff like that. So thanks, Adam. I appreciate it, man. Look, Adam's line is open at 303-696-1971. You can react to Adam's call. I think it's interesting. I think the bigger question for me as someone who's been a lifelong Republican and has not championed someone against a Republican candidate nor voted for them in that way. What's going on with the party here? And do you trust the outcome of the 2023 election? Because it sounds like what we're saying here with this Hank Schwanger email that went out to the state GOP is that we must contest the validity of this election. We can't say it was valid because then they're going to use that fact against us in 2024 when we get shellacked. That's what it sounds like. Now, I don't know that this is the state party's path towards victory, but I'm telling you, from where I sit, this is not how we win. This is not it. There's no indication to me that this is the issue that is on the minds of Coloradans out there that will make the difference in the next election. Some people in the party, for sure. They're going to live and die with the idea that we have the right candidates, we have the right principles, and the only reason we lose is because they cheated us. Rather than looking at our candidates, looking at the positions we take and saying, maybe it's no longer the majority position, even if it's the right one, even if it's the right position. Like, I think pro-life is the right position. I think it is the principled moral position. However, it looks like, not just here, but in a lot of places, the populace, the voting populace, has moved to the left of that. Now what? I just don't know that we don't have a bigger problem here. And that bigger problem is the party is being co-opted by folks who are invested in the immutable view that being right means that they should win. And that's just not how politics has ever worked. You got to do more than just be right. You got to go out there and earn it. And their answer is not, hey, we haven't put out the right candidates, unless you're talking about the rhinos. It's not, we haven't had a ground game. It's no, the elections are rigged against us. And if we could just pull voting back to just property owning white males, we'd win. That's a little tongue in cheek, but that's sort of the direction we go. We don't want mail-in ballots. We don't want voting to be easy. We don't want that. Because if we make voting harder, then we'll lose the people that don't think like we do because they're too lazy or too stupid or whatever it is that they're putting out there. And we'll win again. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer. This, by the way, this is the kind of thing that causes the Kent theories of the world, in part, I'm sure he has other motivations, to want to launch a ballot initiative. And I think this thing's going to happen, folks, that is going to put an end to the caucus and the assembly system. And I don't know that that's good for our system at all. But this is what the rest of Colorado will embrace. I don't know if the Dems will, but the unaffiliateds for sure. And the silent majority of Republicans that are out there, I think they too would be like, can we please take a knee from the insanity, from the purity tests, from the you're a traitor if you don't think like me. I'm telling you, I think that day is coming, and I think that day is going to be November of 2024. I don't know that a caucusless, assemblyless Republican Party is better for us. But it may not be your and my opinion that carries the day. And it's because of stuff like this. It's because the party interior continues to push issues like this that are not top of mind for the rest of Colorado. Going to take a break here. We're going to get back. We're going to get some calls. Before I cut away, though, I got to tell you about our friends at Ultra Botanica. You know, you don't know that name as much as you know Ultra Cur, because that's their fantastic patented curcumin-based product. It's Ultra Cur. There's a U with an umlaut on it. Ultra Cur. Here's the deal. This stuff is an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. It's the kind of thing that gives you a better quality of life for very little investment of time, effort, and treasure. In fact, the first little investment is just you going to your natural grocers, which are everywhere, finding your vitamin manager, and they're always around, and saying, hi, I understand I can get a 3-day free supply of Ultra Cur. May I? And may I get one for my wife, my husband, my friend, it doesn't matter. They'll give you that. But if you don't go see the vitamin manager, you can't get it. You take these things just the way it's prescribed, very easy. The only thing you're going to notice is pain relief and feeling more energetic. That's what I felt when I was running, trying to get ready for that damn Marine Corps marathon that didn't work out. I would feel pain. It's not like it kept it from hurting. It just kept it from hurting for very long. I felt like my recovery time was infinitely better. Billy took it too. You should give it a shot. Try it by going to your natural grocers, getting that 3 free day supply. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to, by the way, also check them out at getultranow.com. They'll tell you everything. They'll answer all the questions that you have. Getultranow.com. We're going to, for a break, we're going to come back. We're going to get to your texts, your calls, 303-696-1971. This is the conversation that matters, folks. This is how we fix us, is through these public conversations, not the echo chambers, but in public like this. Water cooler talk amongst us. 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em out shelves. Your clutter transformation experts create affordable, Colorado-crafted, organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em out shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Phone lines are full. We'll let you know when they keep popping open. Jim from Denver, you're on 710. What do you think, Jim?
Hey, good morning. The political train wreck that Commander Bone Spurs has caused in this nation is not even over yet. The cars are still derailing. We haven't even begun to clean this mess up.
Well,
the Democrats are 5-0 nationally in these elections. There's a couple of minor wins, but they're, dog catcher and minimal things.
When you say 5-0, what do you mean? What are you pointing to?
Ever since Captain Bankruptcy there took over the presidency and paid off our nation's debt, every election thereafter has been a loser or a winner for liberals. And our political party has been taken over by Trump. We can't even call it the Republican Party any longer.
It does seem like we have been willing to sacrifice principles that we held fast to in support of this guy's personality.
Willing to. We auctioned our mother off to the lowest bidder as a nation, okay? I thought that it's going to continue for years to come, George, because I watched what happened in the Douglas County School Board.
Yeah.
Back
Tell me what
in
happened.
2009 or 10, and there was a character down there that got on the chairman of the school board. His name was Justin. He was a out of work, could barely support his family of 5 kids because he never works, but he latched on to the voucher system, and he became the tack dog for vouchers. And then as he was doing that, he brought in that overpaid Elizabeth Fagan with all of her lawsuits that followed. And, the guy's out there in his driveway screaming into his cell phone that teachers are overpaid. He poured fuel on the fire of that train wreck. And I am really surprised that Douglas County train wreck at school board is yet to be cleaned up.
Does all of this flow from this issue of the election integrity stuff? I mean, do you trust the elections that we have?
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of cheating going on, but the only thing that the press tells us about is that the Republicans are getting caught cheating. So,
but what's the cheating that's going on?
Well, we can call it airdropping too many ballots or letting people that don't deserve to vote into the voting polls and to decide our elections. It's a whole different array now. We cannot even define cheating at this point.
Well, maybe that's it. And I think you've hit the nail on the head right there. And that is, we have said that anything and everything falls under the caption cheating. Therefore, we can't trust our elections. I've noticed the subtle shift, maybe not so subtle shift, away from the election was stolen with fraudulent ballots to, well, it was impacted by like the media and the biased media and all this other stuff. And it was impacted by this. And it's like, well, impacted. Okay, so what?
There's got to be 15 different impacts. One of the impacts is having a New York developer telling us that he's going to bring jobs back, or that Mexico is going to pay for a wall to keep the Mexicans out after they build the wall. I mean, it's all an impact, and maybe it's all cheating in one way, shape, or form, right?
I don't know. I mean, Jim, I'm worried, not because of the stuff that Adam said, although we've had pretty good text back and forth with folks about it. I think I'm more concerned with the idea that the loyal opposition, if you will, that the Republicans are killing themselves over these limited issues that are going to keep us from being able to stop a further leftward lurch by the crazies out there.
5-0, that's what occurred. So the Republicans have figured out that if they tell a little lie out there in a barn in Douglas or Elbert County, that they get donations. So what they have to do is they have to tell bigger lies to continue the donations. Just look at our political system. It's a wonderful place to live, George, if you can call into a talk show and then go smoke some weed and walk around in the forest for the morning. Okay.
Well, good luck on your walk.
We're being lied to. No, that's the previous guy. I've got to get back to work.
Yeah. Jim, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Jim's line is open at 303-696-1971. Dalton, it says you're from Nebraska. Is that true?
That is true. That is very true.
What's going on, my man? What do you think?
Well, just based on your previous calls, I first want to quote Albert Einstein, which says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And so my belief with that is, I think there's two guys that are going to change this country for the better. To get us out of war, to put America first, and that's either Donald Trump or Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay, I don't think Nikki Haley is who we think she is. I think she's in it for the war and for the money. There's a reason when she was the UN ambassador, all right, after she left the Trump administration, she went broke. Now all of a sudden she has ties with Boeing, and now she's running for president and wants into more war. So I think we truly want to change
the ties with Boeing. What does that mean?
She currently is investing in Boeing in stock.
Yeah, but is that a bad thing? I mean, is somehow being an investor a bad thing?
Well, I think it is if you're pushing the policies that's going to make you more money, just like with Nancy Pelosi and the House of Representatives. I mean, I don't want Congress, men or women, owning stock, because that pushes policies that's going to go in their favor rather than the favor of the American people.
Well, it sounds like you want Donald Trump and everyone else to divest themselves from their business interests while they serve.
Well, I think it'd be better for the American people, yes. I think you're truly American first candidate, and that's why personally I support Vivek Ramaswamy, first of all, but I think number two.
Why Ramaswamy? Why Ramaswamy?
Well, I think he's one of the most honest candidates we've had in a long time. Again, I'm a young voter, and I think he appeals to young people. He's putting in the work, and I want a candidate who is actually going to do the work. He's going door to door, knocking on people's doors. He's going to all events. He's speaking truth to American people. He's going on podcasts. He's talking to everyone in the world that he possibly can, having no time.
You don't think the other candidates are doing that?
I think he's doing it more than other candidates. I mean, you see like RFK Jr., he's doing it, but I don't think they're doing it as much as this guy is.
What about the idea that this guy's notion of foreign policy is to just give up? I mean, you want Ukraine, Russia, have at it. You want Taiwan, China, have at it.
Do you think it's giving up? Because I don't feel like it's giving up.
Do.
Have you heard his foreign policy?
I have. I heard him actually say, we played the clip on here numerous times, where he said two things. One, with Taiwan, he said, I would, and he sticks that bony little finger up in the air, I would tell China that they cannot touch Taiwan until 2028. I think till he's running for re-election, because we're going to use that time to move the superconductor chip industry over to America. And apparently 2028 is when it's like, you can have it. And then when he talks about Ukraine, and this is in the latest debate, he talks about it in terms of, those aren't really Ukrainians. That's not really Ukrainian land. Those are culturally Russian people. We heard this before with Crimea, by the way. But that's his foreign policy, is to sort of just shrug it off.
Hello?
I'm here. Are you there? Uh-oh. We may have Dalton. Dalton, we'll keep you online. Billy will check back in with you. That's Dalton from Nebraska. Dalton's line still occupied, but Jim from Denver's may not be at 303-696-1971. Let's go to Nick from Denver. Nick, what do you think?
Hello?
Hello, Nick.
Yes, thanks for taking my call.
Sure, thanks for calling.
A couple of comments. You're welcome. Just a couple of comments on the previous guy who said he's a liberal, and he was bemoaning the state of affairs in the United States.
That's right.
The one thing that has to happen, and it's going to be a gradual process, is that people that are willing to negotiate, who have some common sense, are going to have to get elected or promoted in the Republican and in the Democratic parties, because right now the crazies are in charge. And the problem with a democracy is, it's not a problem, but in order to get anything done, as you well know, you have to be able to compromise. You don't get everything you want, but at least you get, let's say, 50%. And right now we have crazies running the country, and nothing's getting done. Absolutely nothing.
You have highlighted something that has been a hallmark of our American way of self-governance since the beginning, and it's a word that's become a dirty word, and that is compromise. You're absolutely right. And what the folks listening that are to the far right will tell you is, that's just being soft. That's just being a rhino. That's just being a bystander. As all of our rights get ripped away, we cannot compromise. And so the end result is we find ourselves increasingly out of power. And while we're out of power, all the really bad things happen that we continue to bemoan. We have chances to fix things. Nick, but we choose not to because we're waiting for that day when we have a perfect majority of perfect conservatives to pass perfect policies that will go to a perfect Senate and a perfect president that will sign them into law, and they'll be upheld by a perfect Supreme Court. And you're right, Nick. Ain't none of that ever going to happen.
Well, I mean, in the immortal words of Winston Churchill, who had many faults, but he was a great man. Democracy is the worst form of government you could choose for a country, but it beats out whatever's in second place.
That's the truth. I just hope we don't find out what that other thing is. Hey, Nick, thanks for the phone call, man. I appreciate it. Keep listening, keep calling in. Hey, we're going to cut away for a break, and then we'll come back for that final segment, but not before I tell you this little nugget here about our good friend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. If you want to remove the stress and worry from selling your home, you got to call Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. They sell with certainty. That's the name of the program. Sell with certainty. That's the name of the website. sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. That's the kind of program where they guarantee a sale. They guarantee a sale at the price that you guys agree upon. And if they can't hit that number, then they pay you that difference in money. Who doesn't want that? 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. They got a ton, I mean, almost entirely 5-star Google reviews. Here's one. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team were great. The team handles everything for you. Things you don't even know you need taken care of, they take care of. And if you have questions, they're right there to help you. They're the best. Check them at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com or call them 833-301-SOLD. We'll come right back for that final segment, number 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KUS. Not a lot of time left in the show. It's been great. By the way, great conversations, great texts. I couldn't even get to all of them. There have been so many good ones. Here's what I want to leave you with, at least in terms of the good things you can do for yourself. If you're a guy, and this is a guy-driven kind of an ad, right? Like if you've got the hair loss, the receding hairline, you've been growing the hair long to comb it over. I looked at myself in the Rumble thing. I look like I had my own hair issues today. It's all natural. It may look like a weave or it's not. But here's the deal. Our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration have an alternative. You don't have to wear hats. You don't have to shave your head like my brother did. You can pick something different, and that is to try to get your own hair to grow back. You feel younger. You look healthier. You got more confidence. Dr. Tanya Pauls has figured this out. They've been doing it forever, with a ton of satisfied customers, something that's guaranteed to work. Oh yeah, you don't get much of that anymore these days. First, check them out at advancedhair.com, and that's hair, H-A-I-R, advancedhair.com. You can also give them a call at 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR. You call in, you qualify, $250 off plus 250 free hair grafts. That's our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. I think that's it for the day, folks. We've asked Billy to reach out to Ron Hanks. We'll see if he'll come on tomorrow to have the conversation. But there's more stuff going on. We'll even talk a little bit of Israel. Stick around for next time. George Brauchler, you're listening to 710 KNUS.